All right, John Hallinan, let's get it started. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, June 8th, 2020. This is a virtual caucus of the Municipal Council. In effort to adhere to social distancing protocols and best practices imposed by the city and state authorities, the City of Jersey City has canceled all public meetings and closed non-essential services as of March 16, 2020, until further notice. As a result, this council caucus will be held virtually as a video conference with public access. We had a 4 p.m. start. The clock on my computer is showing 4:01 p.m. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prince Airy.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
I just received notice that Councilperson Saleh is running 5 minutes late. He'll be here soon. Councilperson Solomon.
Here.
Councilperson Robinson.
Here.
Councilperson Lavarro. You have to unmute.
Here.
Thank you. Councilperson Rivera will be joining us shortly. Bernadette is working with him. And Council President Waterman.
Here.
We have 7 members in attendance at 4:01 p.m. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Thursday, June 4th, 2020 at 12 p.m. to the mayor, council, business administrator, and the Jersey City Reporter and Jersey Journal, and posted on our World Wide Web, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. I'm going to turn it over to the council president.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you zooming in. So Sean, just take it from the top, okay?
Sure will. Okay. So on to our first reading ordinances. We'll go in order. First reading ordinance, item 3.1, an ordinance amending chapter 222, noise. Article 1, noise restrictions to amend the hours in which construction and demolition activity may be performed during the COVID-19 public health emergency.
Okay.
Sean, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I know we sent in, Angelica sent in a thing on this ordinance, and it was from work till 4:30, started 8:30, I believe, till 4:30, because they're driving people crazy here. Now I understand what you sent me before. It's now, what is it, 8 to 5?
I believe that's the time on there. I mean, can we make the ordinance the larger thing that we see on the screen?
If I can just clarify for Councilman Baggiano, so this ordinance, I believe I submitted, and when I
submitted one too. I don't understand this.
So I could be wrong. I didn't double check on the portal. So I mean, if you submitted one too, then there should be 2 on the agenda.
This is Brian. This ordinance is from Councilman Solomon. I didn't see anything from you, Councilman Baggiano, but
Well, she sent it into the law department. I just spoke to her.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, James, you want to explain the ordinance, and then if any council have any questions, you can ask the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So just very briefly, the reason I submitted this was since so many people are working from home right now, they have received, my office, a number of complaints around construction starting right at 7 a.m. or sometimes a little bit before. And so we thought that we should put an ordinance in that would restrict the times during the public health emergency and have them go only 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I am talking to a few folks about it who have reached out, so I'm happy to keep everyone updated on those conversations as they move forward. But the purpose is 8 to 5 only during the COVID-19 public health emergency, so that, residents who have to work from home, have a little bit better quality of life.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just spoke to my aide and she said she sent it in a month ago. Because of the hours.
We'll follow up with your aide offline about it and see if we can find it. But for the most part, it seems like this is what you're looking to do here, Councilman. So if it's just a time issue, then we'll defer to you and Councilman Solomon as to what numbers you want to put in here. Happy to make the changes as we need to.
All right. Well, people over by High Street, Perrine Street, and Journal Square, they're tired of this because they show up at 7 o'clock, they wake everybody up, and they're there long past the hours, and nothing's done to them.
Councilman Bogiano, you said what was the hours that you had submitted?
I believe Angelica sent in 8:30 to 4:30 until the virus is over, the epidemic.
So this is 8 to 5.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess we're losing an hour with yours, right, Councilman Solomon, and then 2 hours with yours, Bogiano. Are you guys?
No, not really. You see what, Jermaine, what they do if you put down 10 o'clock, they'll show up at 7 o'clock. There's no enforcement here, and it's people are just getting tired of it. They come at the block, they're out there in the street making noise. We had a problem this weekend with them working on Saturday, which they're not supposed to be, and the authorities were notified. It's just they're running wild. They do what they want.
So is it a problem more about time or more about enforcement? I don't know.
Both. They shouldn't. If you're going to say they're going to 8:30, they're going to show up at 7:30. If you say 8 o'clock, they're going to be there at 7. They don't pay attention to what the rules are.
So I guess my thinking is similar to, I think, what Councilman Robinson was getting at. Are we solving anything by, I guess, reducing this by an hour in the morning? I know most of the complaints that I get is about just construction in general, while people are home during the day. So if we're just delaying it from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., are we really solving the problem that residents are having?
Well, we'll find out. That's for sure. Denise.
So can I get some clarification? Just the current times and hours permitted are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Hello.
And then weekends.
Hello.
Are there weekend hours?
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Hello. This is Brian.
We hear you, Rich. Go ahead, Rolando. We hear you, Rich.
Can someone just clarify for me? Are weekend hours permitted as well for construction currently?
Yeah.
Hello.
Currently there are weekend hours. It starts at 8 a.m.
Katie, I can't
hear you.
No, they can't.
So
I'm signing in right now. Just
okay.
wait.
Mute yourself, Councilman Bogiano, please.
I got it. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay. So the weekends start at 8 p.m. and what's the end time on weekends?
I believe it's 4. Let me go check in the code real.
Okay. And is that Saturday and Sunday, or is it just Saturday?
I think it's in the resolution we have. I remember saying something about weekends. Let me see.
And then Councilman Solomon, then while they're checking on that, your ordinance will move it on weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. as a start time, and then 5 p.m. as an end time versus 6 p.m. So an hour front end, an hour on the end of the day. So that's 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then, is there any change to weekends?
My ordinance does not have any changes to weekends.
Okay.
And I would just say that, the thinking behind it was, and I'm again open to conversation on all of this, but it was just coming from people who they're generally frustrated, but 7 a.m. isn't, for some folks, depending on your schedules, is an earlier time to wake up at.
So I guess to some of the points made, if the real issue is enforcement, maybe we should be concentrating a little bit more on that. But I guess one of the other things I'm thinking is that if you're shortening by 10 hours on a 5-day work week, how much do you do some of these projects? So while I understand the frustration of having to deal with construction at 7 in the morning, you're going to get maybe an hour reprieve, but it might on the back end extend the project by a couple of months because we don't know how long we're going to be under a state of emergency. So that would just be another question that I would ask and I would raise, because the construction's still there and it's still going to be a pain point and a point of frustration regardless.
Someone else?
I'll just ask, will Councilman Boggiano's come on separately on this agenda, or is that, how's that going to be addressed?
It probably makes sense to do a single ordinance here, but we'll defer to the council on this, what you want to do. It sounds like the only issue is the time.
Councilman Boggiano and Solomon?
What was the weekend hours? I missed it. I'm sorry.
I'm still trying to find that information.
Oh.
I apologize for that.
Go ahead, Rolando, you had a question.
Councilman Boggiano and Solomon, are you going to, as per Brian's suggestion, are you going to look to resolve that? And I'm just trying to get clarification. I'm not trying to force the issue or.
I am happy to resolve either by talking to Councilman Boggiano and combining, or if he feels like his, which is a different set of time, should move forward to have this a second ordinance as a late reading or late item for first reading. I have no preference.
Councilperson Boggiano, can you unmute yourself? Councilperson Boggiano. You just have to unmute yourself. Councilperson Boggiano. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Doing.
I'm not doing nothing. I'm not touching nothing.
Okay. No, I had to mute you. So there was a question posed to you with regards to this ordinance that we're speaking on the noise ordinance. Do you want your own separate ordinance, or will you be willing to work with Councilperson Solomon on the time of your ordinance? Because I think, if correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the matter of the difference is just the time frame. Is that correct? You're back on mute. You're still muted. Councilperson Boggiano, you have to unmute yourself. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Oh. Okay, I think we lost him. He's going to probably sign back in.
Okay.
Councilperson Soleil is here. I'm marking present at 4:10 because he was actually here before. We had that little bit of a conversation, so he's marked present at 4:10.
Thank you, Sean.
What was that?
Oh, I said thank you, Sean. Also
Oh, no
testing
problem.
my mic.
Sorry. Okay, do you want to move on, Council President, to the next
Yes.
ordinance, and then we'll come back as soon as
Yeah.
Rich is back on?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the next ordinance is item 3.2, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-9, Stop intersections, multi-way stops at various intersections in Ward E and F. Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, Section 332-29.1.c, Electric Vehicle Charging Areas.
Any questions? Who's presenting?
This is Andrew Vicio. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm turning on my camera now as well. Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Andrew, how are you?
So just very briefly, this ordinance would designate 13 intersections, some in Ward E, one in Ward F, to always stop control. In addition to that, it formally designates 3 spaces citywide as electric vehicle charging spaces. One is at City Hall, one is at the City Hall Annex, and then another is at Riverview Park in the Heights.
Questions?
Can you, where were the other, besides downtown on Montgomery Street, I'm sorry, on Marin Boulevard, what were the other locations? The Annex?
Yes, the City Hall Annex at the intersection of MLK Drive and Kearney Avenue.
So it's a street on the street, is that correct?
Correct, correct.
And at Riverview Park on the street as well?
Correct. That's at the intersection of Ogden Avenue and Griffith Street.
So what's the process that goes into the selection of the locations?
I believe it's collaborative between the city when they work with, we work with a vendor who installs it for the city.
All right.
It's muted, Joe.
Is there a vendor?
Okay, I'm unmuting, because
Is there a vendor involved on those two locations?
I don't know the exact name, but I can get that for you.
Yeah, the vendor is ChargePoint. They're the ones that install the hardware itself. We have local contractors that do the electrical wiring for the site. And to be clear, these sites were identified in the grant that was approved by council a year ago, whenever it was, and the RFP for electric vehicle charging stations that we did a long time ago. All three, 2 of these locations have nothing installed right now. We were, we had a little bit of a communication issue at the last time we brought these to council, so we haven't installed them yet. We're waiting for council approval before we do so. We did go to the Riverview community to ask about this station around Riverview Park, and it was suggested that we do one to see how it is received.
Okay.
May I ask then, Brian, you mentioned that the council approved it via, what was it, the grant and something else?
Yeah, so you had some concerns about this the last time this came to council, and the guidance from the law department was that the sites were sort of approved already because of the contract and the RFP that we had with ChargePoint to install these locations in certain areas across the city. What the legislation you're seeing now, though, is not the installation of the infrastructure necessarily. It is reserving these locations for electric vehicle parking only. And the reason why we're doing this is to make sure that there are no regular gas-powered vehicles parking in these spaces, that they are reserved for these vehicles.
So, so there was a contract approved with ChargePoint, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Could I request just the resolution or resolution number on that? I can look that up myself and find that. But if you can give me the resolution number on that that contract.
Okay.
And then you said there was something else, a grant or something else that we approved it at?
We were awarded a grant as well from Sustainable New Jersey to help offset some of the costs of installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. It was for about $76,000. That was last year.
All right. And I'm just, with your earlier statements, you suggested that with our approvals with that, essentially we were approving the locations. Is that accurate to suggest that, or?
Yeah, that was the official guidance provided by the law department as well.
Okay. If I could get the resolution number for that grant then as well.
Sure.
So I can just check the history on that.
Sure.
And then
Someone else? Go ahead, Rolando.
Oh, just the and then Andrew, refresh it, and Brian as well, if whoever wants to chime in on this. So when these charging stations are reserved for electric vehicle charging, what's the rules with regard to vehicles that are not electric vehicles, right? So like, are they fine, ticketed? What's the?
Yeah, it's essentially if the vehicle was parking in a location that it was not allowed to be parked in, it's a similar violation type. The rule is that a vehicle must be plugged in and charging in order to stay there at this point. We do charge $1.60 an hour for energy, and out of respect to Councilman Yun, this rate was chosen to make sure that we're not subsidizing this sort of thing for people with electric vehicles. it does cover the cost of the unit in a regular capital term. So in about 10 years, we'll essentially have made our money back on the device plus all the maintenance and other work, approximately. It depends upon how much usage, of course. But based on the usage that we've seen from the Mayor and Boulevard site pre-coronavirus, it's about 10 years, and we'll make our money back on it.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay, no other questions for me.
Someone else? Okay, Sean.
Okay, I just wanted to mark Councilperson Rivera present at 4:17 p.m. He was,
Joyce, I lost my voice here. I couldn't hear anything. What was the outcome of with Solomon on that ordinance 3.1?
We didn't do anything, Rich. We wait till you can get back on. So you
All
and
right.
Solomon could discuss, could y'all
I'll
work
speak
together
to
on it?
Solomon. All right, I'll speak
Okay.
to him about it. Okay,
So,
I got
we
my
did-
voice back.
okay, so we don't have to go revert back to 3.1?
No. No.
You guys will talk offline?
Yes, they'll talk offline.
Yeah,
Very
we'll talk. Okay.
Okay, so the next item is 3.3, an ordinance setting to the transfer and assignment of property and tax exemption held by 720-726 Bergen Avenue Urban Renewal LLC to 280 Fairmont Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to section 9.1 of the financial agreement and NJSA 40A:20-22 of the long-term tax exemption law.
We have a representative of the petitioner for this here. Eugene is on the line, I believe. I saw him.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Great.
Hi, good evening. It's good to see you.
Good evening.
This is I'm glad you're all well. This is an application for transfer and assignment of an existing tax abatement that was passed in early 2016. It's being transferred to a buyer of the property. The financial agreement, which is the tax abatement agreement that you all know, has a provision, and the statute has a provision that basically says an assignment is permitted with the consent of the council, which cannot be unreasonably withheld, subject to certain conditions. And we believe we meet all of the conditions. Essentially, those conditions are that an urban renewal entity is formed, that the entity that is taking the new tax abatement, it's not a new tax abatement, it's the same tax abatement, but it's being assigned, has no other ownership of another project, that the present entity is not in default, and that there's a full assumption of the obligations, and that there's a fee, and that that fee is paid. All of those conditions have been met. And this is a standard transfer and assignment of a tax abatement application. The tax abatement itself was granted in February of 2016, as I said, and it is I believe it is a 30-year tax abatement at 11% of adjusted gross revenue, or annual gross revenue, excuse me. No change in the tax abatement. The only change is the assignment of the party. That's it. And the payment of the fees.
Okay. Questions?
Eugene,
Yes.
this is Councilman Navarro. So you said there's compliance. I did not see documentation attesting to compliance, unless I missed it. Did anyone else see that?
No, you could just send it.
Okay, so that should come from our city offices. With all due respect to Mr. Paulino.
Actually, it's not compliance. That's the incorrect term. It is that the urban renewal company that has the tax abatement is not in default of that tax abatement, and I don't think that my client has received and any notice of a default or orally been told of a default, or there's no indication of a default. So I don't know what sort of compliance we would send if there was no default.
Okay, so let me just, so it's I'm not going to dispute that. It's possible there is no default notice because maybe there's been no assessment to determine compliance and whether there's been a default. So there's the pre-construction, there's the construction jobs, and the PICA. There was no project labor agreement on this project, I believe. And just to ascertain whether there's compliance there. And then there's post, how long has the project been completed now?
I think the project has been completed for probably no more than 2 years, maybe a year and a half. I didn't follow it immediately, but I'm about that. I would say it's no longer than that.
So there is
It's about 2018, I would guess.
There's post compliance, which comes with the PICA, but there's also the municipal, the laws under our municipal code regarding standard living wages and benefits for maintenance workers and security guards. We just had the last 2 council meetings, representatives of workers who worked at the Beacon and worked for planned companies come before us. And just today, I participated in a protest and a rally outside of the Beacon because of their non-compliance with standard wage compliance in Jersey City. And when those complaints were filed, all of these employees, essential workers during a pandemic, were all terminated, right? So I want to ensure that, with all due respect, that your client's in compliance with the standard wages ordinance that we have in effect here in Jersey City, prior to even considering this. Like, I don't, with all due respect, I don't think we should even move forward. And I'll ask the council until we get confirmation of that compliance with both of those matters, both pre-construction compliance on the PICA side, as well as post-construction compliance on the wage side for post-maintenance workers and the like.
May I respond to that, Council President?
You may.
Yes,
sorry,
go ahead.
Council President.
I understand your concern. I understand it perhaps is better than you think, because as you may know, I've sent you an email on the subject, as well as Councilman Robinson on the subject, because I represent the present owners of the Beacon. That's not this situation. There is, I don't know, there's been no indication of a failure to comply. There's no violation. The statute specifically gives a standard: it shall not be unreasonably withheld. Your consent shall not be unreasonably withheld. It sets forth the conditions of doing so. As I've indicated, all the conditions have been met. I don't, if there's a question in your mind as to whether or not there's some aspect of the financial agreement that has not been abided by, I suggest that we take this up between the first and second readings. But as an introduction, I think it's only appropriate that you take the introduction and answer your questions. If your questions are not answered properly or satisfied, or that any of the other council people are not satisfied, you certainly have the ability at the second reading not to go forward. But to not go forward now simply delays a closing in which many people are involved and many people have worked hard to achieve.
Right. I'm sorry, Gene. Brian.
Yeah.
Didn't we just hire 2 people to check into all these issues recently?
What issues in particular?
What they're talking about, Gene and Rolando were talking about?
Are you referencing auditing of pilot agreements?
Yes, all these agreements on compliance.
Yeah. We are. The main focus, we actually hired 3 different firms, and we have an internal employee. So it's essentially 4 different entities that are doing these reviews. That auditing is mostly focused on the financial component of the agreement. Are they providing the city with the appropriate amount of revenue based on the terms of the financial agreement?
And have you checked that review of with that audit with regard to this property and this abatement?
I'll have to go back and look at the list and check with the team. I'm not sure yet. There are quite a few pilots to go through, and we haven't gotten through all of them, of course, yet.
Well, if this is one of the pilots that they've gone through at this point, I'd like to know the results of that.
Sure. I'll confirm.
Questions? Anyone else?
I have a question. What's the transfer fee? That's for Eugene or
Yeah.
is it for,
The transfer fee is set forth in both in the financial agreement and in the ordinance approving it. I think it's 2% of annual gross revenue, 2% of the charge. And that's a condition of closing, which means it's not as if they close and then pay the fee. They got to pay the fee before they close. They can't go to closing unless the fee is paid.
and where does the money go, Brian?
To the city.
No, I get the city, but
I'm sorry.
where does it go, Brian? Which account? How does that get paid?
That's a good question. Let me check. I believe it goes into, this not something we do every day. Let me check with the finance team.
I think it goes general fund.
And can we I know you said it's 2%, but can we get that exact number?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Someone else? Okay, Sean.
Okay, thank you, Eugene.
Thank you.
Next item is item 3.4, ordinance amending chapter 254, property maintenance, article 10, property used for illegal activities. Any questions?
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, hearing none. Next one, item 3.5, city ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting amendments to the land development ordinance, including the adoption of a flood overlay zone in F zone and green area ratio, or also known as GAR, and amendments to the definitions and checklist.
Questions?
Is there someone who can present this and just give some background on this whole thing? I mean, we've had a separate presentation prior to this a long time ago.
Yeah, we do. Lindsay from our planning division is here right now to talk more about it.
Right.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Can everyone see and hear me?
Mhm.
Yep.
Great. Well, good evening, council members. Lindsay Sigmund here from the city's Division of City Planning. I'm the environmental planner, so in addition to reviewing applications for development, I work on initiatives related to enhancing the resiliency and sustainability of the city. So one tool to reach this goal is using our city zoning, which, as you know, sets development requirements throughout the city. The ordinance I'm going over tonight is to create a flood overlay zone, which would require stormwater mitigation techniques such as green infrastructure for new development that falls within the overlay's boundary. So before I just do a quick summary of the requirements, I just want to briefly go over a timeline of events leading up to this ordinance before you all, because it's been a longer timeline. So going back to 2012, Superstorm Sandy had not only devastating effects on the state, but Jersey City specifically, and that storm exposed great risks related to flooding in the city. So during the storm, the high water mark measured over 11 feet in some areas, and more than 40% of the city's land area was flooded. So not only that, damage went beyond flooding. Critical infrastructure like path, the light rail, medical center, public housing projects, and schools faced millions in damages. And then post-Sandy, there were a bunch of funding opportunities that became available. So the city took advantage of that and completed a number of studies related to enhancing the resiliency to future flooding. So I'm not going to go over all those, but eventually by 2015, the city was awarded funds by the state Department of Community Affairs to create a comprehensive resiliency master plan and an adaptation master plan, and a few smaller plans to guide their implementation. So these plans were formally adopted last year after we had another round of public engagement as requested by the Planning Board and City Council. One of the recommendations of these plans was to modify our zoning code to require green infrastructure and other stormwater management techniques that go beyond minimum requirements. So here we are today with the overlay zone. In advance of my presentation today, I've met with almost all of you individually or spoke with your aides about this overlay zone. We had 3 larger community meetings in our flood-prone areas, including Ward B, A, E, and F. And these are the wards that are impacted by the proposed overlay zone. Wards D and C are at higher elevation, so they're not impacted by tidal flooding from our rivers, but not to say we can't require green infrastructure in those areas in the future. But circling back to the meetings, we spoke about We spoke to the public about our vulnerability to flooding, different resiliency efforts, and I specifically presented this overlay zone. And the feedback was mostly positive. The main comment that sticks out to me is that we weren't doing enough to manage stormwater. So this flood overlay zone before you today is just one piece of the bigger puzzle of resiliency. Jersey City has, yeah.
I'm sorry, go on, continue. I thought you were finished.
Not yet, about like a few more minutes. I'm going to show you the boundary in just 1 second. So the boundary takes up about 40% of the city. That's delineated by FEMA's 100-year floodplain. So the proposed overlay zone uses this area to create its boundary. So I'm going to share my screen and show you the boundary itself. And can you see this?
No, Lindsay.
Not yet.
Hey, just give us 1 second. You're sharing your screen, Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Can everybody see it now?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Right. So here's the map of the overlay zone, and it shows areas of the city that are most susceptible to tidal flooding. So this blue line, I don't know if you can see my arrow, but it's all along the Hudson and the Hackensack. That's called the VE zone. And these are areas that are susceptible to wave damage. And then the remaining green area is the AE zone, which is still susceptible to flooding, but it's not susceptible to wave damage. And you should all have the language itself, which outlines the purpose of the zone and references green infrastructure requirements, referred to as the green area ratio, and that sets the specific requirements for stormwater management. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about green infrastructure. So if you're not already familiar, green infrastructure is an approach to managing stormwater that is modeled after natural processes that use plants and soils to manage stormwater. And it keeps most stormwater on site. And in urbanized areas, it helps restore the natural water cycle and provides other environmental, social, and economic benefits. Environmental benefits include decreasing the amount of stormwater running off the land into our city's already burdened sewer system, which also includes a combined sewer system, meaning in Jersey City, when there's a heavy rainfall, the system can't funnel the water that it normally would to the treatment plant, and it ends up discharging into the Hudson and the Hackensack River. And this isn't just rainwater, it combines with raw sewage. So that has a lot of negative implications for the water quality of the Hudson and the Hackensack. Social benefits include adding more green space in our communities, and economically it'll decrease sewer system maintenance costs for the city in the long term. And for solutions like a green roof, which is an example of green infrastructure, it naturally cools a building and decreases utility costs. So how is this going to work with new development? So this is the calculation worksheet that developers would use. They would submit an application like they normally would. Their plans would show details of green infrastructure, and this will be an Excel sheet that will be available on our website that an applicant will fill out. And this is just for major site plans, so bigger projects. It's not meant for a single homeowner. And then planning staff will verify that it's accurate and everything's shown on the plans. So these are some of the examples: a landscaped area, extensive green roof, permeable pavers, and this column right here is basically like a point system. Some things are worth more points than others. Like a landscaped area with more soil depth is worth more points than a landscaped area with less soil depth. Because again, the whole concept is trying to detain water on site before it enters the sewer system. Another important piece is the lot area, because that's going to ensure that projects on a larger property have a more robust requirement compared to a smaller project. And then they'll show the total score to ensure they're in compliance. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just provide a little summary. You're not seeing my screen anymore, right?
No.
Okay. So just in summary, the proposed flood overlay zone and the accompanying green infrastructure requirements applies to new development on properties in the 100-year floodplain, where properties are the most susceptible to flooding. And the purpose of the zone is not only to detain stormwater on site, decreasing the volume of water entering the sewer system, but to increase the amount of green space throughout our neighborhoods, mitigate climate change, and improve water quality of our surrounding rivers. So I know that was a lot, so thank you for listening. This is something I care about deeply and I've been working on for a long time. So again, thank you, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
I have a question. Lindsay, have
Yeah.
you contacted anybody in the Army Corps of Engineers? I mean, we have some very brilliant people here in Jersey City at Cave and Point. Have you contacted them and been working with them at all?
About this specifically, no, but I am aware that they're proposing a large project that stretches from like Sandy Hook all the way up to Queens. And part of that proposal would impact Jersey City, but it's my understanding it's just like a very preliminary study. And obviously they'd have to reach out to us about any large infrastructure that, you know, flood walls and things that would affect the city.
Well, you're talking about flooding. I think you should reach out to them and speak to them because they have some very knowledgeable people there. They're called the Army Corps of Engineers because they know what they're doing. And I would, if I were you, I would speak to them, get their advice, and get back to us on what they say. If not, I'll get a hold of them because we're talking about flooding, and they're the ones that are the geniuses in this matter.
Absolutely. If you have any contacts, feel free to pass them along.
All right.
Council President. Lindsay, when we met some time ago when you first presented this, and thank you for the presentation on that, I'd raised the issue of around Warren Street, the development there where they're utilizing Cupolex. Was that incorporated into the grid that you presented earlier? And that sort of option for flood mitigation?
Yeah, so that would fall under the category of a detention system. They would just have to plug in the cubic square feet of water that would be detained. So of course that would be accepted.
And if I may ask, just for clarification for myself, so as I recall that this essentially shifts the onus and the burden onto the developer and the property owner in those green areas on the map to say that you are financially responsible as opposed to the city for ensuring that this that these flood mitigation efforts and infrastructure is put into place, green infrastructure is put into place. Is that accurate in itself? Like the cost is essentially assumed by the developer as a result of this flood overlay zone?
Correct. So the idea is also you're going to put more residents and infrastructure, so new buildings in our most flood prone areas, then yes, you should be doing more to detain stormwater on your property. So then it will decrease the cost for the city and in turn residents who already pay for sewer upgrades through their water bills.
And currently, though, that the city has that responsibility, but by passing this ordinance, we're essentially shifting that legal and financial responsibility to the developer as opposed to the taxpayers.
In a way, I mean, we already do have stormwater requirements to detain stormwater on site, but this just goes beyond the minimum requirement. And our minimum requirement is set based on state rules. And the last time we adopted a stormwater ordinance, it was over 10 years ago. And that was before green infrastructure was required. Now the state instituted new rules about a month before COVID hit. So we'll have to update our ordinance, which would apply to all projects. So this is just the direction we're moving in based on state guidance that green infrastructure should be looked at first before we resort to below grade solutions. So this will just help meet future requirements, and in certain circumstances, this is more restrictive than what the new minimum would be, even still.
All right, Lindsay, what's your work number at planning?
You just call the main line, but
I know, what is it?
oh, it's 201
Right,
547
right.
5010, and that's
You
the
don't have
city.
your own, you don't have your own extension 5010?
Yeah, I mean I do, but
She can give it to you offline, Councilman.
Right.
I'll give it to you offline.
It's a city number, isn't it? Wait a minute, if it's a city number, what's
He wants the city number. Just give him the city number, Lindsay.
That's the
That's
city
it. So
number,
the public
yeah.
knows the city number.
All right, okay. I thought you had your own extension at City Hall. I mean, at planning.
No.
I don't
Any other
want,
questions?
Yes.
I do.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So the council authorized the MUA to issue bonds for a number of projects citywide to upgrade the sewage and water infrastructure around there as part of the efforts to address, gosh, the term's escaping me right now, overflow. Help me out.
Overflows.
What's that? Combined sewer overflows, yes, sewage overflows. So we authorized $550 million previously, and then going forward, we're looking at a long-term control plan, which the cost talking about $1 billion to ratepayers and taxpayers in Jersey City. So what will what sort of impact can we anticipate for the current projects that are already? Will that potentially alter any projects financially in terms of shifting that financial burden, because we've already bonded for it for $550 million in sewage infrastructure, where those projects may overlap with those areas already that you've designated as those green areas on the map, and then going forward for the long-term control plan, what's the potential impact of this flood overlay zone with regard to that $1 billion cost tag that's attributed to that, the price tag attributed to that cost?
Right, so overall, whenever a building is detaining its own stormwater on site, which this flood overlay zone requires, it's decreasing the amount of water entering the overall system, which is what MUA is working on improving. So yes, it would have a positive impact on the infrastructure improvements that are already going into place. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but anytime you're detaining stormwater on site, you're decreasing long-term costs for the system overall.
Do you think those cost tag, the price tag on those upgrades or those enhancements will then be reduced, or whether it be for the long-term control plan or the current $550 million in infrastructure improvements that the MUA is undertaking currently?
I can't say for sure, but I believe that the sewer improvements that they're making now is really just increasing the number of pipes and the size, because the system is already overburdened. And
I'll just add some brief comments on that. While we can't comment directly for the MUA, a lot of the work they're doing right now is repairing the existing sewers. There's a lot of very old and very fragile pipes that they're replacing at this point. This will help delay those the issues that they're addressing now. It's hard to put a number on that, though, as far as if it's going to reduce any of the bonding that's needed now. A lot of the work that the council approved, that was a couple of years ago. MUA is well underway in a lot of that work, so this likely, a lot of that work is going to be done by the time this really goes into effect.
Councilman, any more questions? Go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Oh, Councilman Saleh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Oh, you'll let me, okay. Just wanted to ask, I know this doesn't impact the Heights, but a lot of Heights residents have been asking for, having mandated permeable surfaces for all new constructions. When I know that this sounds like it's just the initial salvo when it comes to the 100-year flood plan, but I think, in the best interest of the entire city, that the Heights should be, included in this plan and any other plans when it comes to new constructions.
Councilman, we have a couple of separate initiatives that we're working on here that will address this. The MUA is, and I don't want to spoil it for them, they're going to be finalizing and announcing a stormwater diversion and capture incentive plan that will incentivize property owners to install green infrastructure and gray infrastructure on their properties. And that's anyone from a 1 and 2 family home up to the larger developments. It's essentially a credit on their sewer connection fee. More information is going to come soon about that. Also, I will say the city is about to begin a project to install green infrastructure in the public right-of-way, on sidewalks and in streets across the city. That is a very long-term project as well. But those are two things that are going to help along those lines of what you mentioned. And we can definitely talk about good locations that you would want to see this sort of thing in the Height, the locations that the city's going to be installing. And that goes for any member of the council. If there are locations in your wards that you would like to see green infrastructure, or if you have anyone that's interested in this and would like to connect directly to me or to us, we can definitely have those conversations.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Ryan, the MUA has about $300 million projects which are going on to improve the sewers and water.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
and
I will,
the MUA is actually going to be funding and installing the initial round of green infrastructure across the city for the city, because it is part of the work that they're doing and it's necessary in their end.
yeah, and I will add that the way that the flood overlay and the green infrastructure requirements are written, they're separate. So the green infrastructure requirements can be written into any existing zone or redevelopment plan as we see fit. And as you know, we're rewriting our land use element of our master plan. So I think this is a good opportunity to make that recommendation. I know you're all are involved in that process through our CCR or you designated representatives. So if the overlay is not touching an area that would benefit, definitely we could take that into consideration when we're rewriting our master plan and making recommendations for future zoning changes.
All right.
Council
ahead.
President. So Lindsay, the areas are kind of the west side of Jersey City, with abutting the Hackensack River and thereabouts. And then the east side going through downtown. Does that include the area north of like 14th Street going up north towards Hoboken?
Yes.
So the area of like Cole Street, the Jersey Avenue redevelopment plan, all those parts over there are part of this. Are affected by this.
There are some random pieces of the city that have higher elevation, like our historic districts. If you follow those barriers, those boundaries, they're actually at high points downtown, so they're actually out of the floodplain, even though they're downtown. But so there's random swaths that are at higher elevation, so the overlay zone doesn't touch. But in general, most areas just south of the Hoboken border are within the floodplain, just due to its proximity to the Hudson.
Let me get very specific about it. Like the Cole Street area, where the what's that called? David Bowie mural is, and that building over there, is that part of this flood overlay zone?
1 second. Is there a reason in particular you're asking?
There is. But is it part of that or not?
Just based on the map, I'm going to say yes. I'm like 90% sure.
Okay.
It's just hard to overlay. I got a bunch of tabs open, but I can let you know like afterwards for sure. But
You can let me know, and if it should be, and if it should be confirmed as such, I just want it on the record publicly, and I want the public to know this as well, that I raised this issue 2 meetings ago when it was brought up about about doing a special assessment for the Cole Street area to do the infrastructure improvements there, and I suggested then that where is this flood overlay zone that would shift the burden and the cost to the developer and give us better leverage ultimately in the conversation about a special assessment with that developer around that if in fact legally they were required to do this anyway, and the cost and the burden fell upon them to do these improvements, then that would put us in a far more advantageous position. And I believe it was 2 to 3 meetings ago that we had that conversation, along with the dedication of the land that allowed for the park to be expanded there for the Cole Street Park as well, and the improvements in that area. So I just want that on the record because, again, I said it then at that meeting, and I'll say it again, that we lost a potential opportunity there to use that leverage, and this flood overlay zone would have given us additional leverage as well legally to be able to financially get our worth for Jersey City from these developers, and maybe have gotten something else beyond just the park and the infrastructure improvements, which we would say, particularly for the infrastructure improvements, that we could just say to them today, if this was enacted back then, we could have said to them then that you really can't negotiate that with us because this is your responsibility anyway. So I just wanted to put that on the record and let the viewing public know that as well. That Jersey City lost again on its worth potentially if this should prove to be part of the flood overlay zone, that area that we recently approved.
Okay. Sean? Sean?
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Sean?
Thank you,
Sean?
Lindsay.
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
here.
okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Next item is 3.6, an ordinance adopting the traffic control manual 2020 edition and incorporating the safety regulations contained therein by reference into chapter 296.
I have
Uh,
something to
Council-
say.
Yeah, council members, there's been a lot of discussion about this. Councilpersons Mira Prinzeri and Danny Rivera have been working on this in conjunction with the police unions as well.
And
I'll
Richie Boggiano,
apologies, and Councilman Boggiano as well. I'll draw your attention to page 16 of 18 on the attachment.
Mhm.
The key thing to note here in section C is that it specifically references Jersey City police officers as the only police officers that are able to conduct manual traffic control at signalized intersections. That was a key revision that was requested by the police unions and the council members. I believe that was the only major thing that was being questioned and discussed here. I don't know if there are any other questions about it.
No.
Well,
Dan?
I
I'm
just-
sorry, Danny, go
I
ahead.
just
Wait, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to make a statement too. This ordinance was like, it was pretty stressful because it went back and forth for a while, and we pulled this back in, I'm not sure if it was January, because the unions stated that they did not read the manual. So I had it pulled so that they can actually get familiar with the manual. And these were changes that the president of the union wanted. So, it's important to understand that, once we, if this goes through and this manual passes via our vote, that it's very clear that with respect to traffic jobs, traffic construction jobs that are in the street, it's very clear that the state police will no longer be in our city. Will be those jobs will go strictly to our Jersey City police officers and our flagmen. We need to be very, very clear with that. And, if it goes through on the second reading, I'd like to waive the 20 days so that we could immediately start this going as soon as the ordinance is passed. Go ahead, Rich.
Danny, no, I just want to say it was so nice working with you and Mira on this, and but thank God it's finally up, the whole ordinance. So thank you to both of you.
Yep, and thank you guys both. I think it's been a great collaborative effort to get everyone to where they're comfortable and where they want to go. So, good teamwork on this all around.
And
I just have one question, and it's just regards to the flagmen. Is it the language in there that is mandatory that the police and flagmen remain working, or is it going to be some jobs that, require only the police or only the flag persons at one time? Because I'm just asking because I don't want to lose the jobs that we have, the flag persons that's there now. I want to make sure that, they're the people that's in our community that, really been given a second chance at life and getting some, some much needed income coming in for their families. I don't want them to lose their position.
And before Brian answers, and also John Hanlon, who was the attorney that was really working on this as well. That was the talk. The talk was both flagmen and police officers, and we wanted to make sure that they were completely stable in their positions, and we made sure that, we didn't look at any type of layoffs or anything like that. So with that said, I'll defer over as well to either Brian or John Hanlon, who could, chat about that.
The manual currently states that only Jersey City police officers are authorized to conduct manual control of a signalized intersection. So at a traffic light, it can only be Jersey City police officers. In all other instances, it's up to the discretion of the Director of Public Safety. In general, the approach is going to be flagmen are going to be used if it's just a regular site that doesn't have a signalized intersection, just because with full transparency, it's a lower cost to the contractors and to the residents who may need this sort of traffic control. But we are going to require police officers at these signalized intersections.
Sean, is Halloran on here on this?
He is. He's
Yeah,
available.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I am, Councilman. Yes, I
Yeah,
am.
I just want to say we excluded you. You did great work. All right, John? I'm sorry.
Very much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
John Hanlon, I mean, did we explain that the right way? Is there anything that you, because, and one of the things that one of the things that the unions were very concerned, because they would read the wording line, line item by line item, and there were areas in those line items where we could not put Jersey City Police because we do have a very small amount of state and county roads within our city, within our jurisdiction. Is that correct, Mr. Halloran?
Yeah, correct. So the way I worded it, it says that only police officers and flagmen, it's defined here, may conduct manual traffic control. Police officers are mandatory at signalized intersections, and that's a defined term. And that only Jersey City police officers can conduct manual traffic control at those thoroughfares that are within the jurisdiction of Jersey City. So what that means is there's a handful of thoroughfares, like let's say Kennedy Boulevard, which is a county road. We have a jurisdictional agreement where we share policing responsibilities with sheriff's officers. There are a few state roads like 139, Route 440. There are small portions of the approaches to the Holland Tunnel and the exit to the Holland Tunnel, which we share jurisdiction with the Port Authority Police, where in those instances, because we don't have exclusive control, we wouldn't be able to demand exclusive use of Jersey City Police at those locations. But those are a comparatively small number of controlled intersections compared to the overall number of intersections throughout the city.
John, for years, we've always had the state police on 139. If it's a state highway, you can't complain about that. But thank you for everything you did. And I know the police will be very happy about it.
I hope so.
I don't really think that my question is, Councilman Robinson, my question really was answered. Because I heard you, Council, say mandatory for the police to be there, but I don't see anything that say mandatory for the flagmen. And no, I know Councilman Rivera, you said that we wouldn't be laying off any of the flagmen, but I just want to make sure that we have some kind of, because right now they're working side by side with the state police. I don't want it to be an issue where, when we're there, it's like we leave those people out.
The only place where police are mandatory are signalized intersections, and that is pursuant to Title 39, which has adopted the manual uniform traffic control manual produced by the U.S. Department of Transportation. That's true across the board, whether it's Vineland, Jersey City, Dumont, whatever. Police officers have to conduct traffic control at signalized intersections. In Jersey City, those signalized intersections that are controlled through Jersey City exclusively, Jersey City police officers will control that. So everywhere else, flag people are able to be the people providing manual traffic control everywhere else. That is a discretionary decision that the Director of Public Safety can exercise based on whatever factors he deems important. There was some debate over whether it should say should or may as it relates to using flag people. For example, one version of the draft said that in all other instances, meaning all areas that are not signalized intersections, flag people should be used. The consensus was that the term should be may. Either way is legally sound, and in either case, it is obviously the public safety director's choice as to which type of manual control he thinks is appropriate. Public safety director and the administration was fine with the term may, which arguably gives the public safety director a lot more on his plate, having to make decisions in each instance, as opposed to just the use of the word should, which may indicate a preference one way or the other. But if that's what the administration is comfortable with, then that's what they're comfortable with. But either way, the only way that police officers have to be employed is at a signalized intersection. Everywhere else, flag people are certainly currently being used and will continue to be used.
John, isn't under state law, flagmen have no authority directing traffic?
They don't have authority directing traffic at a signalized intersection, but, you know, on those areas where it is not deemed to be particularly unsafe, cul-de-sacs, et cetera. I mean, obviously, throughout the state, you will see flag people.
Yeah,
So it's not.
I mean, but I just want to Councilman Robinson, what this does is I don't think the only thing that changes here, because I know that the flagmen are already working with the state police officers, and they already have, I guess, is what I don't know if you want to, if their bids or jobs already in there. The only thing that's going to change is no more state police, and it will be Jersey City police. I'm sure that the flag people will still be there. I'm almost positive that they'll be there. And Brian Platt, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah. The flagmen are technically employed by the MUA, so they're not on our payroll directly. But there's more than enough work to go around for all of them to continue working as they are.
If it's helpful, I just want to quote from the current traffic barricade manual is how it was titled, adopted in 1995. Section 7, Part D states, police officers are mandatory for manual control at traffic at signalized intersections. That's what it said then, and that's what it says now. One police officer at each signalized intersection is generally adequate. Police officers or flag persons may be used for manual traffic control at all other locations. That is what the current traffic control manual states. Essentially, it's what it states now. It's just a little clearer and provides a little bit more guidance and clarifies definitions.
Okay, all right. Any more questions? Any clarity? Go ahead, Jermaine.
I've heard should, I've heard may, I heard a lot of language. I'm just like really concerned that we don't lose our flag people. I know they're paid for by the MUA, but you know, it's a lot of people from the south side of the city that really is down there being the flagmen. You know, a lot of these people have second, you know, it's a second chance opportunity. Some of these people, you know, have had charges in past, and I don't want them to be left out just because we're going back to the police, because as of right now, the PSC&G and Verizon and everyone else is actually using both. And from what I do understand is that the state troopers are getting paid more than what the Jersey City police officers would get paid. So I just don't want to lose the flagmen in this transition.
The language speaks for itself. Like I said, it makes it very clear where the police must be used, and makes it very clear that flag people can be used in all other situations.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Rolando.
All right. I'm going to switch subjects off of this issue. Is Andrew Vicio here on this matter as well, or?
Andrew is still here. He has one more item to discuss, but I'm sure he can answer questions about this if you need him to.
Sure. So if my memory serves me, and I don't know if it does, here. Age is catching up with me here, but I recall Andrew suggesting, and John, you can chime in here if you're familiar with this. John Hallinan, that is.
Yeah.
That the traffic control manual was the document or body, the language in that document gave the administration the authority to be able to do traffic pattern changes and things of that nature, such that it was viewed as like a pilot program of sorts, right? So that things like parklets and bike bike lanes and other things like that could be implemented without kind of getting council approval around these things. Is that the case in the old traffic manual? And then what is the current status of that language as it pertains to this current traffic manual?
Yeah, so if I recall correctly, sometime last fall, it was asked of us at a caucus meeting to present some documentation showing the authority for the traffic division to issue traffic permits.
Traffic permits.
We issued, we prepared a memo, which I can look up and I can recirculate, which spoke to our authorization to do that. I would have to look at that memo that we prepared last year, understand what specific paragraphs it was referencing in the traffic barricade manual, and then revisit where that should be referenced in the new traffic barricade manual.
Okay, if you could do that, if you could provide us that information, and the earlier the better, before first reading, if possible, for the final vote, for the first reading vote.
No problem.
John, do you have anything to add or on that, or no?
I didn't write that memo, so I couldn't.
Okay.
I couldn't speak to it.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, Sean, you can move.
Okay. Thank you, John. On to our next first reading ordinance, item 3.7. An ordinance supplementing chapter 332, vehicles and traffic, article 3, parking, standing and stopping, amending sections 332-22, no parking at any time, 332-23, no stopping or standing, section 332-26, no stopping or standing certain hours, and section 332-31, parking restrictions for street cleaning purposes to accommodate protected bicycle lanes on various roadways.
This is Andrew Vishio again, Council. What I'm about to do is share an exhibit that was submitted as an attachment to this ordinance. I think it'll be helpful to have this up while we're talking through this ordinance. Does everyone see the PowerPoint presentation that was just shared?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yep. So rather than go through the different sections of the ordinance, I think it just makes sense to kind of talk through it with this screen here up. So overall, the purpose of this ordinance is to amend parking regulations along some of the new streets with protected bike lanes. This ordinance specifically refers to the bike lanes that were recently implemented on Washington Boulevard, Green Street, and Grand Street. There were parking regulations previously changed in association with the protected bike lanes on Grove Street and Montgomery Street, so those are not in this ordinance. So starting at the top right corner of this page that you're looking at now, the change is that on Washington Boulevard in this area, in the Newport area, there was previously parking only permitted during off-peak hours, so overnight and on weekends, not during the rush hours. With the new design that we've implemented, that parking would be available to everyone at all times. So that's a net parking increase in terms of the times that parking would be available. If you move a little bit further to the middle of that page, there's a call out saying off-peak only parking converted to no standing all times. Those are short durations where parking was only allowed off-peak. And as a result of the new design, parking would now be prohibited at all times. Moving further down the page on the Green Street and Washington Street one-way pairs, we did add on-street parking on both of those streets. And as part of this ordinance, it's called out in red dots on this, or red short lines on this exhibit. We're just establishing some no parking areas that can be used for loading. But overall, there would be a net increase in parking in those areas. And then on Grand Street, bottom right of this exhibit here, is where we call out that street sweeping parking, I should clarify, parking restrictions for street sweeping would be repealed. And the reason for that is the street sweepers can sweep along the curb without the need for parked vehicles to move, because the parking lane is now floating as opposed to being up against the curb. And I'm going to just shift. I'm going to show some photos of the street sweepers that we are currently using for protected bike lanes. The street sweeper is about 4 feet wide. And this is a picture of it currently cleaning the bike lanes on Grant Street. There.
Real picture. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Was that a real picture earlier? It looked like superimposed. That's why for my.
It's very much real. I think it was taken Friday. Yeah. Also on this exhibit, I'll go back to the first page. There's some dots that call out some bus stop changes. That didn't make it. That would require a resolution. That did not make it to this agenda, but I anticipate that it would be on the next council agenda. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Andrew, I just want to know when this problem with the pandemic is over, you probably have gone to be created a horror show of traffic on Grant Street and the hospitals there. And God forbid an ambulance can't get through that traffic. It's going to come back to the city and the responsibility of the city, because it's ridiculous what was done on Grant Street and part of Montgomery Street.
So I just want to make sure that the screen is off now, right? I'm not sharing.
Yes, you off.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so with respect to Grand Street, we were very careful when going through all the design iterations to speak with the emergency services, whether it be the medical center, police, and fire. And we were able to accommodate all of their requests. One thing that you'll see in the current design of Grand Street is that there's essentially a striped median along the full length of the project from not the full length, but the majority of the project from Grove Street to Monmouth Street, and that striped median can and has been used by emergency vehicles. I've witnessed it myself many times. Ambulances and fire engines can drive on that median and pass all stopped traffic. So in that sense, if there's heavy congestion during the peak hours, it would not impede the ability for emergency vehicles to respond.
How's there not going to be heavy congestion? You're taking away lanes. The congestion on Grant Street now, before this, was horrible. So let's see what happens. But I think you made a big mistake. That's a heavily trafficked road, and you've created more of a situation of backing up traffic and jamming traffic up. It's a shame.
Yeah, as with all of our projects, we are always looking for community feedback, and we're always willing to make adjustments based on what we hear from the public.
You haven't done it on Bergen Avenue. I mean, the traffic there now, even in the pandemic, is ridiculous, trying to get through, get down Bergen Avenue. All right, Andrew, we'll talk about it privately.
Okay.
Someone else? Questions?
Yeah, a few. So first is thank you to Andrew and the BA for pushing this forward. I appreciate that. I did get a few questions from constituents that I just wanted to ask. So the first just was, can the machine you showed that does the street sweeping, can they do snow removal as well?
No, they can't.
Yeah. We
I'm
have
sorry,
separate-
Brian.
We have separate machines that are going to be doing snow removal in the bike lanes. They're
Okay.
they're essentially like ATVs with plows on them. Sorry, it's not really what they are, but that's basically the idea.
Got it. And do we have them? So, next
We
winter.
do. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Then the next question was specifically about the changes proposed, was saying, why do we need to lose the off-peak parking, I guess, limited hours that was on Washington between First and Bay?
Oh, that one section is where the bike lane transitions from the. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. I don't recall
Okay.
the exact geometry off the top of my head. I think I have the answer, but I don't want to misspeak. I'll send you a follow-up email.
Okay, great. And then the last thing was more just sort of broadly concerned that with the changes that eastbound bikes, or correct me if I'm wrong, are supposed to transition at Grove Street to either York or Montgomery, and take either the protected bike lane or the bike lane. But what folks are telling me is that they just keep going eastbound on Grand, which obviously I believe they have the right to do, moving in traffic, but would like to direct them. And so do we have any intention as part of this to put up signs and indications to clearly kind of shift the bikes? And then sort of I'll pause on the sort of second thing, not directly connected, but in part because we've narrowed the lanes. Any truck that's on Grant Street is having more and more trouble. And Grant Street is a no truck route, but we don't have any signs up indicating it. So can we, as part of these changes, put up signs both about the eastbound bike traffic and about the no truck routes?
Absolutely, yes to both. We have we've already put together a draft signage plan for bikes on Grant Street. And as far as the no truck signs, we could always add more.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, someone else? Okay, Sean.
Okay. That concludes our first reading ordinances.
Council President, Clerk, can I
Sure.
discuss a late ordinance for the council?
Go ahead.
Sure, thank you both. Council, I will email you all as soon as I have the final documents all together, ordinance that I'd ask us to consider adding as a late item, and I'll explain both what the ordinance does and why I would ask that it be added late. So as you know, we introduced the Exchange Place SID budget at the last meeting, and we'll likely be voting to finalize it in a meeting, one or two meetings in the future. One of the properties in the SID, 135 Montgomery, had reached out to me over a year ago and asked if I could help with their assessment. And what happens with their assessment, which makes it sort of unique, is they're a co-op. And as a co-op, their SID assessment pays the full property value that is worth, their co-op is worth. But that's different than the way a condo is treated. So a condo only pays an assessment on the sort of retail portions of the condo, but not on the residential portions. So to just give you some examples, the Portofino, the Crystal Point condos, their assessments pay roughly $1,000 each year into the SID. This co-op, 135 Montgomery, pays $25,000, despite the fact the other properties are more expensive and more valuable than 135 Montgomery. So the residents who own in the co-op are ending up paying a much higher assessment than a resident who owns in a condo. So I'd asked the law department in March if they could look into our ability to treat this co-op as a condo. And obviously the pandemic hit, so things were delayed. So we're just getting the analysis now, but the law department was great. And I thank them for working very quickly, as we realized this was coming. And they said that legally we're not allowed to treat the co-op like a condo, that we have to treat it as a co-op. However, we do have another option, which is to just remove 135 Montgomery from the SID. So in essence, we would redraw the boundaries of the SID to remove 135 Montgomery. And when I share a map with you via email, you'll see that 135 Montgomery it's literally the last property that's been included on the map. So it's not, it's not like you're in the center of the SID. Yeah, and I think just because they're being, you know, the vagaries of the law or the uniqueness of the law means they're treated differently than the condos. They have to pay much more than the condos. I think it's the right choice to take them out of the SID. They pay every year $25K into the budget with about $3 million. So obviously it's a substantial amount, but it's also, you know, the budget. It's I think less than 1% of the budget, or even less than that on an annual basis. And the reason I asked that we add it late is if we want it to take effect before we approve this budget, we have to have a first reading at this meeting and then a second reading at the next meeting. And I've been working with a law department to get all the details together to present it. So I can email it to everybody when we have the final pieces of information that we're trying to put together. But that's the quick overview of the item and where we're at with it.
Any questions? Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Joyce,
Yes.
Council President, quick question.
Mhm.
I'm actually, oh, my bad, my computer fell down here, sorry about that. So I'm noticing that, I mean, I just want to know why weren't like the revisions for like going back to the manual, why weren't the revisions for the chapter 296 added to this agenda? I don't see it there. I don't know if John Hanlon has any, you know, if he can weigh in on that, or Brian. John, are you there?
John?
I am.
So I don't see the
yeah.
chapter 296 added to this. I know that you was working on that, you know, as a whole.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that I wasn't the one that put this up, obviously, but
Okay.
I wrote, as you may recall, there were several meetings about this going back months, really. This is all part of a package that, in fact,
Okay.
I think the title of this refers to this as being incorporated into 296, and it was part of a whole comprehensive package. 296 is the chapter governing streets. So the chapter refers to the manual, and the manual refers to the chapter. So I
mean,
thought it would be easier to do everything at once. They are very big documents, so I do
Right.
appreciate why that's difficult to do. And months ago, there was some talk about maybe even having a special meeting just on these items.
Right.
But
I mean, I'm wondering, can we add that? Can we just put the 296 on there if we can?
that's the council's call.
How many papers? How many papers are, the only reason I'm asking, because if it's like a book, if it's 289 pages, what would that do to, you know, us getting all that information before?
Before we even answer that question, I just want to just remind the council members that we already have 7 first reading ordinances, and perhaps looking to add Councilperson Solomon's ordinance, that would be 8, and then another one that would be 9. Just to keep in mind, I'm not against adding anything. I'm just letting you guys know that that will be 9 public hearings we have to hold at the next meeting.
Okay, so then maybe we can just add it in the next council meeting.
Okay.
Sure. And to answer the council president's question, the revisions to 296, we totally scrapped the old chapter and started anew. So when I printed it out, it's about 39 pages. It is a large, it does cover a lot of ground. So it is a large document.
So we'll just add it on to the next council meeting if, you know, council president, if we can, just for the next council meeting, we'll just add that. If that's, is that okay, John? I mean,
sure. It's your call. And obviously what you could do is if you wish to have them all aligned is that you could hold off adopting the manual until the other item has been adopted or introduced, and then adopt them at the same time. That's obviously however you wish to handle it. But I personally think, if I may just interject my own opinion, it is best that they go together as a package. That was the intention.
With that being said, I think it would be, I would recommend that you consider withdrawing it from this meeting and adding this, you know, the 3.6, and then the one that would amend chapter 296 to the next council meeting, make them be the first reading ordinance for the next meeting.
Mhm. Okay, Danny, what do you want to do? Because I know y'all worked on this, you, Rich, and Mara.
I mean, that's one of the, I mean, that's one part of that manual. I mean, you know, I don't want to stop the entire traffic manual, you know, for
Okay.
that, you know. So
You want to move forward with this and just
we'll-
add the other one?
yes, we'll move
Okay.
forward with it.
Just continue to move forward and then he'll just add it to next go round. That's all.
Okay,
Okay,
Right, thank you.
very good. All right.
okay. James, I don't think anyone had any questions. Anyone have any questions?
So we'll be adding Councilperson Solomon's ordinance to the agenda as a late item. Thank
Okay.
you. All right. Our second reading ordinances are just one. Item 4.1 is an ordinance adopting amendments to the mixed-use B zone of the Morris Canal redevelopment plan.
Okay. Go on, Sean.
Okay. And just a reminder that we're going to have a public hearing on the 2020-2021 Central Avenue Special Improvement District Assessment Roll and Budget. After that, we'll have our public speaking portion of the meeting. We've had added since the agenda was printed. I think we're almost up to 30 speakers. Next, our petitions and communication. We have items 6.1 through 6.34. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we have an office's communication. Item 7.1. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, and we have our report of directors. Items 8.1 through 8.3. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we have our claims. And on to our resolutions. Item 10.1, resolution 20-364, resolution authorizing an emergency temporary appropriation. Item 10.2, resolution 20-365, resolution authorizing refunds due to New Jersey Tax Court tax appeals on various property tax accounts. Item 10.3, resolution 20-366, a resolution authorizing refunds due to overpayments for property tax accounts. Item 10.4, resolution 20-367, resolution fixing interest rates and the allowable grace period for non-payment of taxes, assessments, or other municipal liens or charges. Next, item 10.5, resolution.
Sorry, I have a question. I'm sorry.
Yep.
With regard to this fixing interest rates, is this able to be amended later, or if we wanted to change the rates or in any way?
Brian, or?
Can you be more specific about that? What exactly do you
So
want to change?
hypothetically, and I'm just making this up because I haven't thought about it a lot, and but hypothetically, I'm sorry, let me just pull it up.
Councilman LeVar, while you're pulling it up, let me give you a preliminary answer, but then I think we should formally ask the law department to answer for us. So as I understand it, to change the interest rates, you have to give notice to the property owners. And traditionally, that form of notice has been in the form of a letter that goes out with the mail tax bill. Or my understanding from talking to a municipal finance expert was that there's not really case law on exactly what it looks like. So in theory, you could provide notice virtually and, argue that that's provided notice. So I think, the short answer is you've got to give people 30 days notice before it goes into effect. And we can ask our law department if they think that, a virtual notice would suffice.
Put it on low. I'm up next. I got 3 more people.
and meet that requirement. And the last thing I just want to add to council is I spoke about this ordinance with Councilman Bogiano, Lavaro, and Saleh, but this is something I believe Councilman Yoon had been working on prior to his passing, as he thought the current interest rates in the city were too high, and I think that's doubly true during the COVID period.
I agree.
Agreed. So, so my question, as it relates to, as I'm looking at it, the changes to change it from an 8% per annum on the first 1,500 of delinquency and 18% on everything in excess of 1,500, and changing it to the national prime rate on the first 1,500. And what's that number currently today?
Last time I checked, I believe it was 3.2, but that was a few weeks ago. I haven't double checked.
And then and then a national, and then that prime rate plus 7% on anything in excess of $1,500. So without having thought this through very much, but I'm just, and I had a brief conversation with Councilman Solomon about this a couple of weeks ago, I guess, but it was hypothetically, if you're a big property owner and you're delinquent by 50, I don't know what their tax bill would be, $50,000, $100,000, or whatever the case might be, and could we change it down the road to say that we're fixing it to say 18% per annum on anything in excess of $50,000?
Is there someone here from the tax office?
There's not.
Okay, so we need their input and we need the law department.
So what, Councilman Lavaro, I'll take the initiative, and I'll put together those questions in email, and I'll give them to law and the tax.
Right. Because we have to figure out what can be done.
Council President, may I raise a question? I mean, we really should have people here, right, to answer these questions, and I did reach out to ask for this to be. I'm not suggesting you. I'm asking the administration why they're not able to be here and answer questions about these matters. These aren't legitimate questions, I think.
To my understanding, though, everyone that presents a resolution or ordinance should be here to answer questions.
And I mean,
at the caucus.
Sure. I put this ordinance up, so it was the ordinance that I put in, but agree that I can talk with the full administration on who should be speaking about these questions as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sean.
Next, item 10.5, resolution 20-368, resolution appointing Elisabeth Castillo as Chief Financial Officer of the City of Jersey City.
Sean, do we have her resume?
Yeah, I attached it earlier today, so if you go and refresh the agenda, you should see the attached resume, and I believe there's a letter there from her director and also from her former director.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions?
I'll just make a comment, and I just think it's great that I said this several meetings ago. I think actually probably at the last live meeting pre-COVID, that Elisabeth Castillo should have been appointed previously when this position was vacant after Donna Mauer had left after her retirement. And I'm glad to see that an internal candidate who's given so much to the city has the opportunity to advance and take on a leadership role here. So I'll give kudos where they deserve it, and this is a good choice. And congratulations to Ms. Castillo. I know the vote is still to be cast, but I think your credentials are unassailable.
Ditto.
Okay, Sean.
I just wanted to say Liz is here if you have any questions for her.
Oh, she's here.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions for Elisabeth? Okay, thank you, Sean.
No questions for you, Liz. See, it's
It's a good sign.
That's a very good sign.
A very good sign.
Well, we got till Wednesday.
Okay, next one is a resolution reappointing Colo Abad as Chief Judge of the Jersey City Municipal Court. And Judge Abad is also with us too.
I just want to make a statement as well. This is another amazing chief judge in our municipal court system, and you know, he really makes a difference there. Does a great job there.
Mhm. Okay.
I'll just echo those comments as well and just say, keep up the great work, Chief Judge Abad, and particularly during this time of COVID, getting the courts back on track. Appreciate it
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, he really, you know, took this pandemic to task, and they optimized all the courts using, you know, virtual hearings. So kudos to you and your team and everything you've done during this time.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Well deserved.
I was literally running out the building. Danny, I had the Hudson County Bar Association meeting where I was a speaker, so I had to leave this meeting. I just jumped back on real quick, and I'm glad I caught it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Judge.
That is a pure definition of a multitasker right there. There you go.
I try. I'm still at the courthouse right now, as you can see. But thank you for the vote of confidence. I appreciate it. And we're going to continue doing good work. Just as a small update, we're, you know, as you all know, we're doing the virtual court now. We have been kind of running as a pilot program at this point so far. But come June 22nd, we're able to get all the judges up and running, and we'll be fully operational by June 22nd. So just wanted to give you guys that small update.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief, Councilman Robinson here. Are you still the only judge doing the virtual court?
Well, so the way that we did it, at first I had to figure out how to do it, right? How to switch all operations to virtual. So I got it up and running. I did it for a week, comfortable in the system that we designed. And then, you know, I had 10 other judges to rotate through so they can all learn it and get the hang of it. And we've been doing that for the past 3 weeks. Simultaneous with that, I've had, you know, each judge has a staff of 3 people. We had to train those 30 people how to now prep all the cases to be heard in virtual court. And we've taken the past 2 weeks to do that and rotate them in. So we're basically at that point now. Actually, this week, I feel comfortable that all the judges know how to do it. All our staff knows how to do it. But we want to give, you know, defendants at least 2 weeks notice to appear in court. So the notices are going out tomorrow, and every single judge will be fully operational by June 22nd. And so we're going to hit our target date. So come June 22nd, we'll all be running fully operational in virtual setting, but we'll all be going.
And if I could just add quickly,
Sure.
I know Judge Abad, I mean, both prior to the COVID emergency as well as during, the Jersey City Municipal Court, and speaking to colleagues and friends, has been a model for the courts around the state. And I think a lot of that is due to Judge Abad, and I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. And it's been a pleasure working with him these past couple of years.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job, Chief.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. And of course, and by the way, if ever, I know it's a new world, but if you ever want to attend any of the virtual court settings, you know, just let me know. We'll enter you in on the Zoom meeting, and you can watch court. You know, you can. I mean, it's a public hearing anyway, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So if any of you want to observe and sit in on the meeting, just let me know, and I'll make sure you get added to any court session that you want. Okay?
Judge, can I ask you a quick question? I got a call from a girl downtown that received a summons up on Central Avenue, and I think it's due in 2 days. Now, is that postponed, or what does she have to do?
Well, what was the summons for, Councilman? Do you know?
Meter parking.
Oh, so it was a ticket?
Yeah.
Well, so if she can do one of 2 things. If she wants to pay it, obviously that's easy. But if she wants to contest it, we put a link on the city website under the municipal court tab, where if she wants to plead not guilty, she just fills out the form, and then we'll schedule her into our parking court.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
No problem.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Judge. Okay,
Thanks,
Sean.
everyone.
Thank you. Okay, next item is 10.7, Resolution 20-370 is a resolution introducing and approving the 2021 budget of the Journal Square Special Improvement District, directing the city clerk to publicly advertise the budget and schedule a public hearing, and directing the tax assessor to prepare an assessment roll of properties within the district based upon the budget.
Okay,
Item 10.8, Resolution 20-371 is a resolution accepting the 2020-2021 assessment roll of the Central Avenue Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City. Item 10.9, Resolution 20-372 is a resolution adopting and ratifying the 2020-2021 budget of the Central Avenue Special Improvement District of the City of Jersey City.
mhm.
Item 10.10, Resolution 20-373 is a resolution establishing an advisory committee to review the City of Jersey City Police Department's policy and procedures relating to police enforcement and discrimination.
Peter.
Sorry,
Peter,
Council President. Sorry, Council President, I was on mute there.
could you read in what I want to add into this resolution so the council could understand this?
Sure. Did the changes not make it onto the, 1 second, please. I apologize. Yeah, there were the updated version did not make it onto the printed agenda. At any rate, I will read off the proposed changes. The council president had asked that there be some additional language that would allow the committee to recommend the retention of experts or consultants that might be relevant to this conversation specifically, and the language I will add here. Quote, the committee shall, when appropriate, recommend to the administration the retention of consultant experts in fields including but not limited to police use of police use of force best practices, conflict de-escalation procedures, law enforcement discipline and training, explicit and implicit bias training, and diversity and inclusion. Additionally, there was language added that the committee may, at the conclusion of its findings, recommend the potential formation of a civilian review board for the police.
Peter, has anybody from the unions been contacted or had any input into this?
No, it's a hot, go ahead, Peter.
No, I was gonna say, no, I've had no conversations with the union about this.
Mm-mm.
Well, I think they should be advised, Peter, because I just listened to what you said. I think there's a lot more to this, and they should be advised and they should have input into what's going on.
Well, Council President, if you'd like, we'll have that conversation.
We'll have a conversation.
So, Council President, just to clarify, because I know that I've received some questions around this, and there seems to be some confusion as to the function of the board and what it's going to do. So this is not a committee to create a civilian review board. It's a committee to go over best practices, policy, and procedure as it relates to the police department.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Council President,
Sure.
maybe I should direct this to the administration. So the mayor recently announced certain policy changes. I'm not familiar with the what those entail. And what I'm talking about is policing procedures and so forth, and police enforcement procedures. Can someone speak to that with regard to that, as to what the administration has proposed or has enacted by executive authority?
There's nothing on the agenda about this tonight. It's something that was described in a press release, so we could send that to you if that works.
I'm asking what they are, because So correct me if I'm wrong, Council President. So this committee will sunset after 6 months. Those policies that are going to go into effect, that they're going to be subject to the evaluation of this committee, I would assume, correct? Or whatever those policies are that he's heretofore enacted. I guess I would suggest to the Council President that perhaps we extend this longer, because if he's putting in new policies, there'll be a need to for a longer period to evaluate the true effectiveness of those policies, whatever they are. I don't even know what they are exactly. If there's like a no chokehold policy, or if there's a policy around more what is it called, training on de-escalation and so forth, then those things take time to kind of execute and implement, and we should have a period of time that's adequate to being able to make a proper assessment of those procedures, or for the committee to do that and make recommendations.
That's true. We can extend the time, can't we, Peter?
Yeah, the Council President, you can put whatever sunset window on that you would want. So if you'd like to change that, we can do that.
A sunset window. Let's try it for because we already have it for 6 months. Let's just add additional 3 more months to see.
Okay.
I would do a year, but I just think that would be too long. I think we need to really get.
Agreed.
You know.
Council President, or I guess the law department, because I've been getting a lot of emails, resumes, and so I wanted to be able to really explain to them the letter C, community leader. Like, what kind of category would that I guess fit into? I'm getting a lot of calls, because there's a lot of calls, a lot of resumes, because I guess the conversation has needed to be had, I guess, for a long time, and people are really serious that they want to be a part of the committee. But I just want to make sure that when I'm looking at resumes, I'm kind of looking at the right things. So I was just trying to get like a definition of a community leader.
Council President, I mean, not to speak out of
turn.
Well,
I'm assuming in each community, that's why each council person has the right to appoint. In your area, I'm quite sure there has been community leaders. If we have meetings, different people we have talked to, there are people who always stand out that are community leaders in every ward. So I'm assuming that the people would suggest to you who they consider their community leader, or you yourself, because you've been in various community meetings. That is a council's decision.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I think it's kept that broad to allow that amount of discretion.
Peter, actually, the police superiors union should be more involved than the other unions. And actually, the state FOP should be involved in this. Not the local FOP, the state FOP. All right? And if there's no more questions, Peter, I got another question for you while you're here. Peter, they're opening up downtown where they can have outdoor food and stuff. And now, does that apply to up here on Newark Avenue for bars that don't serve food? Can they have stands outside, or is this just for downtown?
No, the outdoor dining portion applies throughout the city. Any restaurant or cafe that wants to open up a limited amount of outdoor seating outside their establishment can submit an application. There's an application process. I can actually circulate that to the council if you'd like. But that is not just limited to downtown. That's throughout all 6 wards.
Council members, I'm going to be sending out additional guidance to the special improvement districts actually later tonight after this. I'm going to forward it to you as well, just to clarify all the rules around this. We know there is some confusion, and we are trying to be as liberal and supportive as possible to our small business community. We're going to need your help getting the word out, though, about the changes that we're trying to put in place to make sure our small businesses are supported here locally.
All right. Does this include regular bars that don't serve food?
Yeah,
that's a good question. I will confirm that. I'm pretty sure that they must be food selling establishments. But I'll get a definite answer on that.
Would you, Peter? Because I got people up here asking me those questions, okay?
Yeah,
But
thanks, Councilman. Could you email my office as well when you find out that? Because I've been getting the same questions about bars that don't have kitchens. Are they allowed to open now?
Yeah, I will get a definite answer on that for you.
Just send it out to the council, or send it to Desiree. She'll make sure we all get it.
Yeah,
You got it.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks a lot.
And Peter, could you make sure the resolution is updated?
Yes, I will confirm that's done tomorrow.
Any more questions? Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. Item 10.11, Resolution 20-374, a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City urging the New Jersey State Legislature to enact the Liberty State Park Protection Act, Senate Bill S-1449, and Assembly Bill A-2189.
Sean, a couple council people had asked for additional questions on this, so I think we'll withdraw it for this meeting, but the intention would be to bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Which one are we withdrawing?
The
10.11, Resolution 20-374.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions. I guess in the wake of George Floyd murder, I've been getting a lot of questions in the Black community in reference to just a broader conversation about the issues that have been plaguing us and surrounding Liberty State Park as a whole, and almost the systematically leaving out of the south side of the city. Me and a councilwoman had a conversation today, Councilwoman Denise Ridley, and we both laughed and joked that we used to go swimming that was at the pool there, and until she brought it up about us having swimming at the pool, like it never crossed my mind that why or even when the pool closed. And it was something that I know we used to do. We used to walk over there all the time, but I'm not sure when it closed, but it's been closed for 20, 30 plus years. And the question has been going around, and we just want to have a conversation. So thank you guys for agreeing to pull it, so we can have spend the next couple of weeks in discussion on how we make sure that it's inclusive for everyone in the city.
But Council President, I'd like to add that being that we're pulling it, I guess we're gonna just have conversation then with everybody else so that we can be on the same page, correct, Councilman Solomon?
That's the goal, yeah.
So then what I will do publicly and for the record, then I want to just unsponsor myself until we come to that conclusion, because it is very important. Like Councilman Jermaine Robbins has said, that being that we are in this situation with the murder of Mr. Floyd, we want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, especially with a piece of land that everybody uses. So I just wanted, publicly say that and on the record, just until we get, start on the planning stages again with the resolution.
Anyone else?
Just to be clear, though, I always say withdrawing, but it's my understanding we're deferring it to the next meeting.
The goal is to set up a conversation between then and now, put it on 2 weeks. So.
2
Yeah,
weeks.
the goal is to get it on as soon as possible. So the next meeting is really we pushing for it, but we want to make sure that we have a real conversation about it, and we're just not gonna just rush this through just for the sake of getting it on. But we do have a broad conversation with the entire community, and with the COVID, the climate that we're in right now is probably I won't say hard, but we're gonna have to set up a Zoom, or maybe we do something that's social distancing. I'm not really sure, and I'm not really sure how many other council people want to be involved with the conversation. So we might even have to sunshine it to make sure that we do have a real conversation. You know, I think it's that important, and I think, you know, it's always the right time to do what's right. Said, you know, said Martin Luther King, and right now is the right time.
I'm
Okay.
committed.
All right.
I mean, I'll just.
Go ahead. I think, Councilman Youssef, you were saying
Yeah.
something, your voice is low, but I hear
Sorry.
you.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I'm committed to, you know, having that conversation, and I spoke with Jermaine, and I want to make sure that the park is accessible and services all communities, especially the Black and Brown community on the south side. I'm also committed to making sure that the billionaires that keep trying to acquire Liberty State Park do not acquire it, and that it remains a free and open space for all of Jersey City and all of New Jersey. So we're going to have that conversation. We're going to make sure that, you know, the Black and Brown community that is literally at its doorstep is being serviced.
Okay. Councilmember Londo, you had something to say?
No, I'll just add, so had the conversation with Councilman Robinson and Councilman Solomon with regard to this, and I think having the and then I'm using Councilman Robinson's words, the Black conversation in the wake of the horrific and tragic murder of George Floyd is absolutely 100% important. But I also just want to echo the idea that which I said to Councilman Robinson, and also reiterated in my written message as well, that wanted to see that this gets returned to the agenda, because the idea of also protecting this land from privatization, as Councilman Saleh said, from billionaire interests, I think is also of primary importance. And it's my understanding that this legislation, which may be coming before state legislatures and committees and so forth in the coming weeks. And so given it's in our backyard in Jersey City, I think people want to know kind of where Jersey City stands. And this is not a new conversation. I just want to say that, right? So this is the same legislation, the Liberty State Park Protection Act, that was unanimously approved last year by the City Council in the lead up, although it didn't get passed by the state legislature. It was unanimously, this same resolution was essentially approved last year. So agree 1,000% that the time is now to have those conversations as well, and we should do it urgently, and not suggesting that it be shuttered aside as an afterthought, but instead that there be a very intentional and vigorous conversation around the issue of access for Black and Brown urban communities as it pertains to Liberty State Park. But at the same time, we need to prioritize and make sure that we're also protecting our flank, which is against those billionaire interests that are looking to privatize the property.
Okay.
Well, I've heard billionaires a few times on here, right? And I don't think this is a conversation. And for me, it's not going to be the conversation of whether, you know, we're protecting or working with billionaires, or we're working and protecting with the great person that Sam Pessin is, and all of the advocacy he has done with his entire family. I don't think it's a conversation about either the billionaire or the protector. The conversation is just really about the Black and Brown people and the people that I service, we all serve in the city. So I mean, I heard the billionaire a few times, but I just want to make sure everyone knows that this is about the people and not the billionaire or the great guy and advocate who Sam Pessin is.
Okay, Sean.
So this is being withdrawn, and I will make sure that it appears at the next meeting unless I hear something different. Okay?
Correct.
Alrighty. Next one, item 10.12, resolution 20-375 is a resolution declaring the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Item 10.13, Resolution 20-376 is a resolution of the Jersey City Municipal Council accepting a gift of PPE and authorizing the city to execute a hold harmless agreement for the Rapid Makers Response Group. Excuse me. Next. Did I hear someone?
Go
I
ahead.
was just saying, if you wanted me to explain that, I'm here. So.
Any questions on that?
Who was that that said they wanted to explain it?
Stacy?
Oh,
Yeah, it was Stacy, Director Flanagan. Any questions on that, on that resolution?
Go ahead.
Item 10.14, Resolution 20-377 is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to apply for and accept grant funding from the Hudson County Open Space, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund for Reservoir Number 3, Trail Development and Lighting Improvement Project.
the only
Item-
problem is, trail improvements and everything, they still haven't put up the fencing there to stop kids. The other day, they were getting into there again, climbing up the wall. When is the fencing gonna be put in?
This project is partially the improvements of the trail and partially the fencing. We're hoping to go out to bid with this entire project in a couple of weeks. We're still finalizing some elements of the bid spec and also working with SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, and also the DEP to make sure we have all the approvals and information in place.
Yeah, Brian, this has been going on for 3 years. It's about time it ends and they get this stuff done.
Yeah, agreed. We're at the finish line of going out to bid here. We're almost ready. It's a lot of moving parts, and the funding was a big piece of it as well. It's a very expensive project, and we had to put some funds together as well, and this is one of the last pieces here.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Item 10.15, Resolution 20-378. It's a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to apply for and accept grant funding from the Hudson County Open Space, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Trust Fund for the Pavonia Marion Park Field Improvement Project. Next is Resolution 10.16, 20-379 is a resolution ratifying the award of an emergency contract to BioReference Laboratories for laboratory services due to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic for the Department of Health and Human Services. Stacy is here, Director Flanagan is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Go ahead.
Hearing none. Item 10.17, Resolution 20-380, resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City accepting a grant from the Hudson County Department of Health and Human Services Office on Aging. Item 10.18, Resolution 20-381, resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City accepting a grant from the State Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services to assist in community response healing following the terrorist shooting on December 10th, 2019.
I have a question on that one. Well, I have a couple questions.
Mhm.
Where is this funding going and what is it going to be used for? I think it might have answered that question. It
Yeah,
said
so-
some support services and counseling. But how does someone apply for the services if they've
So,
been impacted by December 10th?
Specifically, we'll be hosting citywide activities for the general public that have been impacted, but we're focused on the actual schools, the children around the area that was impacted. And we're working with both therapists and other partners. So our partner Soaring Words, it does we'll do the general public related things. If you are impacted, join us. We can talk about healing. And then we're doing things at Sacred Heart and all of the schools in the surrounding area.
Okay.
So that's why we wanted it on now, because we want to leverage that for the end of the school year to have each student that needs support, that we are working with their teachers to do additional online support for like classroom-based activities.
Okay. Have we done anything in the past, or are we looking to do anything with the residents that live in that area, particularly the residents above the store?
Yeah, so we've been doing, so once COVID hit, we stopped our in-service. We did 3 online related community events. One of them was filmed. It's, I think if it's not up on the JC response page for COVID, it should be. I know that Stephanie Daniels is making some edits to the website now to clean up, because we had kept like listing all the activities we're doing. Just before we shut down public services, we had done a big event at the Bethune Center, particularly related to that area, but we're also engaging a therapist from the Satmar community to specifically work within that population. And this came to us, I mean, specifically outreach from VOCA, because they felt like the community surrounding it could be better served by people that know the community. And it's been very, this community was also, very touched by COVID. So there wasn't a lot of activity that we were doing until many of the leadership have been filled.
Stacy?
Yes.
Once again, I want to commend you on doing a fantastic job in these past few months with this whole thing. You totally amazed me. And thank you for all your help.
I have a team, a very large team of people here working on that as well. So it's many, and this particular grant stems out of the Division of Injury Prevention. So in partnership with all of the chaplains that have been helping us through this process from all over the community, this engagement, we're hoping that it's shortened, because we put in this application sometime in February, expecting to move forward, as early as March. So we're a little bit later than we wanted to be, but we do have an 8 series of online workshops that we'd like to do throughout the summer, specifically with the nonprofit community that can engage the youth that have been impacted by this, and sort of like tailoring it to do that outreach.
Thank you.
Director, I just want to say thank you. You know how I feel about you guys at the health department. I'm hoping the federal government send more than a grant to compensate the people who've been at the front line, and the people who've been working without overtime and without hazard pay. Doing a great job for Jersey City. I've said it to you offline. I'm going to say it publicly, because your department, the police department, the fire department, the people that's been sitting there on the front line every single day, they deserve more than a round of applause, especially for those who operated without hazard pay for these last 3 months and without overtime. So thank you for everything you've done, and let your staff know that we are thinking about them.
I will let them know. This is exciting. You'll see, I think the Soaring Words is also on this particular engagement. And prior to this also, Councilwoman, I don't know if you were engaged in this at all, because it was our faith-based related to this. So we did a series, a 3 or 4-part series with the faith-based community at the Collier Center, specifically addressing December 10th. But now that, because we did that, is why VOCA came in and said, we want to continue, we want to fund it. So that was before we had funding.
Okay, Sean.
Okay. Item 10.19, Resolution 20-382, resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City approving Jersey City's fiscal year 2020 annual application/action plan and authorizing submission to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD.
Questions?
Carmen here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Carmen?
Carmen's here.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go
How you
ahead,
doing?
Councilman.
So, I saw your response regarding Emmett Realty and the award
Okay.
to them. Can you just clarify for me? So is that proceeding then as a result, as is, or you seeking further clarification?
So the clarification for the, let's just say Emmett Realty and the public facility projects, the public facility projects that are identified in 19 were reprogrammed and used for the purposes of the EDC loan that we did earlier on at the beginning onset of COVID-19. I had said at the prior council and caucus meeting that I would reprogram those funds in fiscal 20 because in theory I took that money away because those projects were not necessarily shovel ready or would be slowed down due to COVID because they have to do with renovation work and so on and so forth. So I saw your email to the principal of that company, and it seems as though he was unclear as regards to what his project manager and my project manager were talking about proceeding with that project. So as of to date, that project is going to go through, but if the principal of that company decides that he is not going to go through with it, then he would need to send my division a letter canceling out that project.
Okay, so
Yep.
Because I just want to be clear that my conversation with him is he's completely unaware of an award, and in fact he's basically suggested to me that he thinks that he was essentially rejected, or that he thinks that he can't accept the money under the terms. And as I suggested when we talked, I just think it's worth somebody having a direct conversation with him, so that we don't have to go through the rigmarole of approving funds and then possibly having to withdraw them or doing something else. And frankly, that $600,000 could go a long way to something else.
So again, right, my program runs on reimbursement. It is going to be on the demonstration of the applicant to get us the information to get us to closing so we can get the contract awarded. And so even as of today, he called back my project manager, he called back, his principal called me back, his project manager called me back that they wanted to proceed. So I'm not sure what they communicated to you, but to the division.
Okay. So they said they want to proceed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I need to hear. If they didn't say that, then, because they didn't say that to me, so that's.
Okay. Any more questions, Ron?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean. Go ahead.
Carmen, so I had asked about the administrative costs or for HOPWA and ESG, 71,000 and 36,000.
Yeah.
Kind of the documentation you provided me had different numbers, so I just want to get clarification on that.
So if you remember the budget plan in my presentation, it was a working draft. And as I was meeting with each council members, I said the final resolution should have the final numbers as it relates to all of the grants. Those are the administrative line items for admin for the division in HOPWA and ESG.
Right, so the number that you presented initially, that was a draft, was that based on a higher percentage or just, and then now you're getting a smaller percentage of, on the administrative costs? And then as such, then the dollars that were from their, that you initially proposed as a different number, which were higher numbers, I think, if I recall.
Yep.
They're unallocated at this time, or they've been reallocated already as part of it?
So those are admin costs. That's what I pay my staff and salary costs. And the reason why it's greater is that with the CARES Act funding, the division was allowed to increase its costs, its admin costs in prior to $19. So that is why you see an increase from like 19 to 20.
Okay. Did you see that email that I sent about that and about those administration costs?
Yeah, no, you sent a couple of emails.
I sent several, but in particular that one. I'll follow up with you on offline if this is mostly just kind of seeking a clarification on this. But then the and so the other stuff that has not included here that was in the original budget, just to clarify, including like the 300,000 for the Division of Engineering, the 100,000 for Office of Sustainability, 60,000 for Recreation, and the CARES Act funding. All of that is going to be coming at a later date, or
No, so because I was meeting with the council members as a working draft and had spoken to the business administrator, the goal was of the division that we were going to refund applications at the same level funding from last year. So sustainability, not recreation, because recreation is being funded. Sustainability, and I would say engineering is not being funded, and they're not going to be funded currently unless they apply at a later date for another specific project. So last year I gave sustainability monies to do tree planting, and monies were given to engineering for Fulton Park. No additional funds are needed, but if those divisions do need funding at a later date, public facility projects are rolling applications, which is something different from last year to this year. Historically, the division would have a competitive process for facility projects, and so we changed that for this year.
Okay, so let me rephrase the question. Is how much of unallocated dollars are remaining that remain to be allocated?
So if you see my memo where it says CDBG unallocated various uses, we've got about $1.6 million that's identified in this year's budget as unallocated CDBG uses. And then what is coming is the CARES Act funding, which is about 3.4 in CDBG. So about total, we have about $5 million that can be used for CDBG for the division.
Right. And so when you determine that, then you'll come back to the council for the reallocation of those $5 million.
Correct.
Right. Okay. I'd asked about
Anybody else have questions while he's looking for his
the reallocation of Golden Neighborhood Homeownership Program, about 195,000. That went over to the affordable housing production. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Are those affordable housing? I don't recall from our conversation, and my notes weren't clear on that. So, were those already committed dollars at this point, or and voted on by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee or the CDBG committee, whatever the committee is that's determining the use of those dollars?
Okay, so GNHP is the First Time Home Buyers Program. That's the grant that we use to allocate dollars in that regard. Affordable housing production is what we use to create or preserve affordable housing. So the committee typically does not make recommendations on first-time home buyers projects, but they make committees on projects that are either going to preserve or create affordable housing. So if your question is about this year, the spring RFP closed at the end of April. My team is getting together the review process for the committee to start reviewing this year's applicants.
So you have not determined where that affordable housing production dollars are going at this juncture?
No, but we will.
Okay. So I'm just going to reiterate for the record, and I shared this with you privately in our meeting, that I think certainly if you could send me a copy of the applications that are submitted, I know the committee will review that and make recommendations to the council for approval on all of that stuff. But I would suggest to the council that we should, as important, and I think you know me as somebody who's as important as the construction of new affordable housing is, the kind of the immediate urgent need is in addressing the people's inability to pay their rents, their mortgage, their taxes, their utilities, etc. Right? So their loss of income and all of these has affected their ability to pay that. And we have other programs where dollars could be allocated. Now, if there are certain projects, and I'm not looking to sideline a project, let me be clear about that. If there are projects that are in the middle of development, and there are certain commitments that we've made as a result of communications or any representations on our part, then I don't want to certainly look to delay or derail those projects in any way, because I know how difficult those projects can be to keep them going as affordable housing projects, I should say, more specifically. That being said, if that commitment doesn't exist and we're just reprogramming money from Golden Neighborhood Homeownership, I would suggest that we look to use that for things like the TIBRA, the tenant-based rental assistance programs, as well as kind of the back mortgage and back utility payments that which, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carmen, on this, but that would come via ESG type fundings of the sort around that. Because while it's not a huge amount of money and won't make, but if we start to cobble some of this stuff together, they can make a difference and hopefully they'll certainly impact that one family or families that it could provide some respite in this difficult time.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Sean. The next one.
Okay. Item 10.20, Resolution 20-383, a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing submission of the Community Service Block Grant application to the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs for CARES Act funding.
It's me again.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the CSBG funding, which is administered by the state through the city. Different through the HUD grant, I actually have to apply for these funds, whereas the HUD grants gave me the ability to amend and to do some distinct things. The state gave us indication that we're going to be receiving $1.2 million in addition to this year's CSBG. So again, this is just an application. No decisions have been made yet as to where the source and determination of the funds are going to go to. So this RFP is due June 12th, which is literally this week. So we need this resolution to apply for this particular grant.
All right, Sean.
Okay. Thank you, Carmen.
Yep.
Item 10.21, Resolution 20-384, a resolution rejecting the bid received by the City of Jersey City on February 25th, 2020 for the disposition and marketing of commingled recyclable materials for the Department of Public Works Division of Recycling.
Sonia, somebody's on the air for this?
Yeah, Sonia Dublin is here from the Department of Public Works.
Why are they rejecting the bids? Go ahead. Sonia? Sonia?
Yeah,
I got mute. I apologize. So we put the bid out for commingle and paper and cardboard. Just before the bid was going to be awarded to Sims for the commingle, Sims pulled back their bid because they wanted to increase the amount of money per tonnage that they had originally put in their bid. So we are now just going back out to bid for just the commingle, and the paper is the next resolution that you should be hearing soon, which is to award it to All American.
Okay. Questions? Okay, Sean.
Okay, thank you, Sonia. Item 10.22, Resolution 20-385 is a resolution authorizing the award of a competitively bid contract to Just Greens LLC, Aero Farms, to construct and maintain indoor vertical gardens at various city-owned properties. And I believe
Stacy, who's here for this?
Can I just say something about this?
Angela?
I have nothing against this in the future, but right now, spending $1 million when we're in financial trouble, I think is absolutely crazy. Why don't we just hold this off till we get into a better position financially in the city here?
Councilman, so we do have a couple of presenters to discuss this, but these are capital dollars that were allocated in 2018, so it's nothing that would affect our.
It's still $1 million we could use for other things right now. Well, I know you can't, but hold off. I mean, we just spent $186,000 for furniture. Now we're spending this. I'd rather see our part-time aides come back, than, we want our part-time aides back. You took them away from us. You didn't even really consult us about this. And now you're going to spend $1 million. 2 weeks ago, we spent $186,000. It's wrong. Let's just, we can hold off on this for 3, 4, 5 months till we get back financially in a good state of affairs in the city. $1 million is a lot of money.
Who's presenting here?
We have Stacy and Angela from the HHS team, and we have Fabian from the Aero Farms team, hopefully on the line at this point.
Yeah. Also, David Rosenberg, the CEO of Aero Farms, I'm on as well.
Great, great.
Okay.
David, if you want to kick it off for us and just talk through Aero Farms, that would be great.
Yeah, I can. And council member, I'm not here to say what the city should or shouldn't do with your budget. Obviously, you guys have to make that determination. I'll just share what the project is and how we're willing to support. And so Aero Farms, we're the world leader in vertical farming. Our headquarters are in Newark. I actually live in Jersey City, and I've lived here since 2002. So I very much want our taxpayers' money to go to smart things. Part of what we do is we enable local food at scale so people can enjoy fresh food. In talking with members of the community and people in the administration, I understand one of the challenges with food stamps is getting people to eat the right food, eat healthy food, as opposed to buying soda. And it's been a challenge just driving the right eating behavior. So this is building facilities in different areas locally so people have access to fresh food, and it changes eating habits. When people see it, while it's an unconventional farm, it's a farm, and getting people around the food and how it's grown. Ideally, it changes behavior and gives them access to fresh food. And I could share more about technology. I appreciate if everyone has a full agenda. I'm happy to go into whatever details you want, and I'm happy to support this project, whether it's today or in the future. So again, I'm just want to be sensitive to everyone's time. What would you like me to talk about?
The picture you're showing, where's this location?
It's not a.
There'd be 10 locations around the city. So the idea is in different.
No. Where's the location of the picture you were showing, the farm?
Okay, I can't see it. I imagine our headquarters are we have 4 buildings in Newark, one of which is the largest vertical farm in the world.
This is all from Newark.
It's probably
that farm is not from Newark.
Yeah, it's. Excuse me.
You show fields, all open fields of plants growing, acres and acres and acres. Where is that?
I can't see what. That's not us. I can't see what the.
Well, you keep on
presenting, but what I'll bring up is our facility is in a warehouse. So we took an old dilapidated steel factory and we built, among other things, the world's largest vertical farm. If someone could, whoever has the deck can show that image. And separately, we have prototyping, R&D, and our headquarters in the city of Newark as well. But envision 40 feet high, 12 to 14 levels of growing, 0 sunlight, 0 soil. It's using LEDs, light emitting diodes instead of sun. We're able to produce a lot of product locally in a very small footprint. This wouldn't be those big farms, it'd be smaller farms. So in different buildings, different communities within the city, people can seed, grow, harvest, and eat fresh vegetables. With also 0 pesticides. So it's about inspiring, driving the right eating habits, and creating locally sourced food.
Okay, Brian?
Angela and Stacy can provide a little more information on exactly how and why we want to take advantage of this type of growing process for our seniors and for low-income communities and those in food deserts.
So as Angela's getting her presentation up and ready for you, I would just say that over the last 3 months, if it's not been clear to all of you, but given the current state of unemployment, when you actually file and get unemployment, you lose your access to food stamps and Medicaid. So you basically choose one or the other. And that's actually one of the really serious ills of the system. And we have seen a dire need for food and not enough food to go around. And we have pulled together all of the partners in the food system, and we've been working with a lot of people to take a look at the amount of food that we've been moving across the community, which is pretty significant. And Amira sat on our last call to get a glimpse of that. But hopefully within the next 2 weeks, Angela will have even more data for you related to that, because we're collecting it from all parties that have been donating, and in addition to everything that we've been purchasing. So I think Angela is ready. Do you have the share screen? Next one over in the middle.
With the arrow.
Yeah. All right.
Fabian, are you there? Do you have it ready? You could share.
Want me to I can put it into share. Angela, can you share?
No, I can't get into. Oops.
Do you want me to share again?
Yeah, why don't you share your screen and the preview of the presentation?
Technology, right?
I'm having trouble.
Okay.
Include audio.
If you can't get the screen, oh, okay.
Fabian, we just see a black screen.
Oh,
Okay. Here's the screen.
try again.
Here, I can, let me.
Well, I don't know what's going on here.
But I'm gonna share my screen.
Here.
All right, here we
Go ahead,
go.
Stacey. Go ahead.
All right,
No.
Angela.
I'm not having.
So can you see my screen, Angela?
Yeah,
So just get started. And I'll just move it for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's not the presentation that.
Is that the last one I had?
Yeah, but I've changed it, so I can't. I'm
Okay.
trying to get. I'm having trouble getting into the presentation.
Could you explain it?
So
Go ahead. Explain it.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble with my computer right now, so I'm not.
Okay.
So I'll walk through.
ahead.
So
So Stacey,
basically,
I'm going to send you the most recent one I have, and then let me see if I can get this.
email it to me and just start talking so that we
Yeah.
can.
Okay. Let's see here if I can share this. Okay, so as David was speaking about, we are our goal is to work with Aero Farms to increase access to healthier food throughout Jersey City. And we will be building, working with them to build 10 vertical farms. They will be at municipal buildings. So from City Hall to our City Hall Annex, to when they reopen, Connors and Collier, our senior centers, will be figuring out, working with some of the schools, one of the emergency food providers, the Old Bergen Church, and as well as initially we wanted to start with 2 of the public housing sites, Marion Gardens and Berry Gardens. So Marion is where we have mixed, families, and then Berry is almost all seniors. So that was a good start for us in terms of piloting the project, being able to kind of look at 2 different populations. And on top of that, one thing that's very important to us, in addition to just providing the food, because if you look at all the kind of different research, it's not just about providing access to healthy food, but also about providing education. So on top of the food that will be provided and given out for free to Jersey City residents, they will have to sort of agree to be part of this program that will allow them they'll do nutrition education classes, as well as do health screenings, because we want to be able to track the outcomes of the intervention that we're making, which is the vertical farming.
Just to build on that, this is a program that Michelle Obama, when she was First Lady, got excited by. We had a program at schools like Phillips Academy in Newark to help teach K through 8th grade, just how to how to eat the right food, get them to eat vegetables instead of fries.
Will this also employ people within the areas that the farm is located?
Yeah, we would. We're not. You know,
I don't know why.
go ahead.
We're hoping to utilize staff that are already on board. We might have one management team member. There's some bad network quality situation happening here, but I don't know if you can see the screen that I keep trying to share. Can you see that?
No, not yet, Stacy. No.
It showed up briefly where there was like the enrollment period, and then there was a timeline of what was happening.
Okay.
Angela, I'm going to go back to the former one.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. I don't know. I've been having a lot of internet issues here. So
The short answer is, I mean, between Newark and Jersey City, we'd source it all within the local community. We're all here. So whether it's people from Newark, we'd obviously look locally at Jersey City so they could do milk runs. There's preventative maintenance, there's maintenance, there's seating, there's operating. And we'd also look to get volunteers as well.
So that's not clear to me. So are local people hired as part of this, or like
Yeah.
the growing?
Yeah, yes.
The work that goes into it. The short answer.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's not just growing. There's like preventative maintenance areas, like people that know how to, like, are familiar with plumbing, electrical, things of that nature, sanitation, all of those features.
Do you have estimates, given the scope of your project and the 10 sites, as to how many jobs and be generated as a result, and who, and what type of jobs those are, and within the community?
They're low-skilled jobs, and it's single digits.
Single-digit jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
And how much of this? So, $500,000 goes towards establishing the 10 sites. Is that all inside of kind of capital costs, or does that include some wage costs as part of that?
It's all funded through the $1 million set aside in the 2018 capital issuance.
Yeah, but what comprises the costs of that $500,000 that is used to establish and set up the site? So does that include just the physical sites, or is there that includes the hiring people or contracting someone to set them up and build that? Is that Aero Farm getting paid to
That's
set that
part
up
of what
physically?
we're funding.
Right. So we design it, we build it, we install it.
Okay.
We train people.
How much?
So how many people are trained at the end of this process, and or what's the time period in the process itself?
It's just taking me off.
All right. Can you see this?
COVID-19 world, I think there are some further conversations on what the updated timing is and how we can have access to the facilities. So when we put this together, it was over a year ago. So I think we have to see where we are, where these spaces are, and how we could get access to it to give you a definitive timelines.
And then the other $500,000 is for kind of the ongoing maintenance and growing. Explain this to me. I'm a neophyte in all of this, so explain this to me as though I'm somebody completely unfamiliar with all
So
this.
this is a 3-year process. Year one, we start slowly. Our goal for year one is the 2 housing sites, because we're halfway through the year. We've already taken a look at them. We already have commitment. Vivian couldn't get on this call because we had to have her on the agenda, but she was happy to answer any questions about the Housing Authority's commitment to this. We thought that would be a great opportunity for us because we're a little bit busy doing some pivoting to like redesign some spaces here, COVID related. As soon as David's team could get started, we would start the build out. So slightly more than $400,000 over the 3 years is maintenance related, and $400,000 is build out related to build out these 10 locations. This includes anything from electricity to the washer dryers per location, the linens, because this is, you know, dirt free, and the transitioning our team. We would have one program manager, but we're integrating the work into work that we're already doing that is already funded in nutrition education, whether that be WIC related nutrition education that we're required through our nutrition team, our Head Starts, like at Marion, and our senior centers, which are funded specifically through the Office on Aging. We have, with the Office on Aging, to do nearly 3,000 units of nutrition every year. So we're not looking to spend a lot of money on personnel. We're looking to integrate this as a new and innovative way to utilize and bring more food into the community and drive that through nutrition education that we're already required to do through our avenues of the Division of Food and Nutrition.
I just want to reiterate that the intent and the objective of this is to introduce healthy food and healthy food eating habits into all communities of Jersey City, and to provide fresh leafy greens in parts of the city that are, for the most part, food deserts. So there's a lot of metrics that we're going to be using here to make sure that we're having the right outcomes on our Jersey City populations, including health metrics. We're looking at distribution, a certain amount of leafy greens into the community. There's a huge education component here, and there's a huge awareness component as well. We're placing these in some of them in visible areas, even just to get the conversation going. We're going to be distributing these healthy foods directly into the communities at very short local distances. So there's a lot of reasons why this is going to be a positive impact on communities across the city.
Yeah, so
These presentations are slightly flat.
I'm going to share the presentation because every time I push to share the screen, I think there's some issue that it's not sharing. So I'm gonna. So this is. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So we talked slightly related to this. Obviously, we talked about the underserved community and the residents. The intervention we thought would be helpful, the sites that we had mentioned earlier. We're working with the school. The school would like to select their own locations, and they have been toying around with a few different locations to date. The goals, obviously, increase consumption, decrease in high blood pressure, in diabetes and heart disease. 3 key social determinants of health that have also greatly impact the severity of COVID in our community. The program eligibility is very simplified. Any resident would be able to participate in the program if they agree to complete some intake, which is baseline, so that we can track. Like Brian said, data is really important to us. We have 6 monthly nutrition education workshops. One of them is the registration. So we would host events across the city related to Arrow Farm, introducing it with some nutrition education workshops. And then quarterly asking people to get health screening. We've asked them to be a part of the program for at least 1 year, but this program and this relationship and the proposal is for 3 years. And we really, we're engaging all of our seniors that are participating in congregate senior lunch to get involved. Angela, you want to talk a little about the intake form enrollment, the free green, the actual tip sheets and anything? Is Angela still? All right, so our partner at Quest Diagnostics, through our relationship with the World Economic Forum, has already done some baseline of the city in general and found some lacking particular vitamin D, which is a really key mental health need, and an important vitamin for diet. And so we hope to continue doing that work along with cholesterol, BMI, weight, specifically if people are interested. These greens grow pretty quickly. David and Fabian can attest to the thousands of pounds of leafy greens that we can distribute either weekly or bi-weekly based on family need or individual need. When somebody comes in to pick up greens, we want to check in, especially if we have them at any particular location. We have someone like coordinating that pickup every week. We're going to be partnering with SNAP Ed, which is out of Rutgers University, and they would be providing extra incentives for people that actually have great need for food to engage in either specific nutrition education, and the next extent applying for SNAP and or getting support to fulfill that life cycle. So the first month, they're required to do like a say yes to fruits and vegetables. And then over the course of, months attending these classes, at every point where we would ask for a health screening to track progress, we would also provide an incentive. All of these things are integral to the nutrition education work we already do. And then after 12 months, we'd have them say, like, do you want to continue on with us and, keep kind of taking a look at your health and becoming responsible. So in the short term, we'd see an increase.
Stacey, I was muted before. It kept muting me.
All right, great.
Great. So in terms of,
thank you, Stacey. Wait a minute, Stacey, finish, because we understand what you're saying now. She's gonna go ahead. I don't know.
The short term, Angela has developed, some key visions around numbers, but obviously year one, we would look to work specifically with Barry and Marion. This really nicely integrates with healthy starting in the Head Start programming, and the Head Start team at Marion is just really exceptional and have been doing great work. And there's a really great tenant team there. Barry, we already have a staff person at Barry, Dwayne, and he has been working with us for nearly 3 years now, running the congregate meal program. And so just get basic knowledge and health benefits, increasing understanding and preparation. We'll be able to bring the smoothie bike out to different locations, talk to them about different ways to prepare, and then increase knowledge of their own risks related to some of these key chronic diseases that can be prevented. And then midterm outcomes, 2 to 3 years out, increasing consumption, and increased confidence in preparing their own greens, and residents improving their health and well-being. Beyond that, obviously, we'd like to see across the city decreased rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease, increased consumption of fruits and vegetables. I talked a little bit about like additional things like reduction in cholesterol, maybe weight, looking at all of the issues that I had mentioned earlier related to vitamin D. And that's sort of the key components. In a quick snapshot, we did sort of a simple program lifestyle for you to just take a look, and measurement around access, consumption, and health.
Okay, all right. Do Angela have anything to add? She's good.
Yeah, I would just say that just in terms of priorities, I think that it given that we've seen what we've seen with COVID-19 and the health-related issues there, I think it is an important investment for the city to make in making these dark leafy greens accessible. They're one of the most under eaten vegetables that we have, but the most nutrient dense. and the ones from Aero Farms in particular are very nutrient dense. So I think it will be a very good investment for us to, get our residents eating more of these dark leafy greens, incorporating them into their diets, and really working to incorporate this nutrition education, and then track the outcomes. And we see this as kind of like it's an initial first step to broader, healthier eating for people.
Questions?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Vera.
I know what the program will be starting, but do you guys have sort of an estimate of the amount? I don't know if it's in pounds of leafy greens that will be made available to the residents. And again, this will all be free to them, correct?
Yes, it will be. Yeah, so the amount of the poundage will be for the 10 units, it would be just under 20,000 pounds of greens a year. So that's a lot. That's some of the initial sites that we're working with, like Marion Gardens and Berry Gardens. Those sites will produce 685 pounds of greens per year. And in terms of servings, you want to think about it like 3 ounces is a serving. So this will produce in a year over 102,000 servings. So it's a lot of food, additional food for our residents.
Okay.
Is there documentation on that, the production levels?
Yes, it was part of the RFP proposal that Aero Farm submitted. So we can make that available to all the council members.
Okay.
And do you have a timetable as to when that how much will become available, how much poundage or?
We can provide you a weekly estimate by location. So the Bethune Center, we hope will be a larger location that'll provide more. So we'll share with you the graph that kind of gives you a weekly, monthly, annual.
Yeah, we can break it down. But the 685 is about the average for the sites that were the smaller sites that the smaller units. But the Bethune Center will be a production like a high capacity production level, and will produce over 10,000 pounds a year.
Okay.
Is there
Someone else? Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So Rolando, every 2 weeks. So this is actually probably Councilman Borgiano why you saw that like open land. Any given plot of land, it takes you can maybe turn that over 7 times a year versus, and maybe David can jump in here, versus the number of times that we can change over Aero Farms, which is about 22 times a year.
Yeah, it's about 3 times a year in a field. In New Jersey, it's like 2 times a year versus about 22 to, depending on what crops we grow, it could be like 30 to 50 times a year. Depends what crops are grown. But on your average leafy greens, it's 22. So 2 in New Jersey versus about 22 in terms of the utilization. And that's because of the controlled environment. And also other things like optimizing spectrum of light, intensity, that sort of thing.
And so the lifespan is about 14 days to grow to, and so as soon as they're built, within 14 days, we will start having produce.
Someone else? Questions?
I have a question, Council President.
Okay.
How many people can be on the program? Because I know you said that they would have to, I guess, give it you take your blood pressure and things like that, but how many people can we put on that program, and who's going to be monitoring that? Is that your department director, Flanagan?
Yeah, it'll be part of our Division of Food and Nutrition. Kicking it off, we're starting small with the 2 locations at the 2 housing facilities. And that's more for us to get a sense of like community and space. So we want everyone engaged there. So, at Marion, there's over 400, units, maybe there's 1,000.
There's about 683 residents or so at Marion, and then about 380 are at Berry Gardens.
And that would be our starting point. And then as we grow, like at City Hall or City Hall Annex, we want as many people, just similar to how we're doing our COVID testing, as many people that we can get into the program we want, because we want people that are engaged in their health to continue to engage in their health and make some of these decisions and provide them tools to do it.
Can I make a statement, please?
Sure.
Listen, you know, ever since we've had these farms throughout our city, you know, and it's a big part of the Black and brown community can't afford to go to these farms, you know, and I see it even in the community that I live in, and I get it, and they tell me all the time, you know, we go to some farms up the block, we go to some farms by Montgomery Street, up on the heights, and you know, we really can't afford it, you know. And I know that, you know, I know that some of the council colleagues are looking at this $1 million, but this is $1 million invested in our community, and this is going to be $1 million invested into families that can't afford this. Like, imagine, you know, when these families go to doctors, the doctors always tell them you got to eat healthy, you got to eat this, you know, you got to make sure that, you know, you have certain amount of leafy vegetables in your system. But the Black and brown community, we can't afford that. And the Black and brown community, not all of us, but some of the Black and brown community, you know, all we know is to eat junk, because that's all we've done all our lives. And here we have something that has landed on our laps. It's not free, it's not cheap, but you're talking about symptoms of hyperlipidemia, which is cholesterol, triglycerides, diseases that affect the Black and brown community. This helps with like insulin levels, diseases and symptoms that plague the Black and brown community. Cancer, diseases that plague the Black and brown community. One of the things that we have to really pay attention to it, because I mean, I've seen people's concern, and the concern is based around the $1 million that we now know has been allocated, you know, since 2018. But I'm looking at it as a not a 100% fix, but you're talking about a structure that's already being implemented, that these greens will be followed up by a BMI test, by a healthcare professional, by, you know, I mean, there's follow-ups with this program. And again, I just don't understand how we can't see the investment that's going back into the community if we do this. I mean, the only thing that I would question here is that I don't see an area, you know, within downtown. Like we have, you know, areas in this, we have communities, again, my community here, we have communities in the north side of downtown, which is, you know, 16th Street projects, 15th Street projects, like, you know, I don't see that there, you know. And this is something that has to be, these communities are the communities that complain as well, you know, to both Councilmember Solomon and myself, saying, hey, we can't afford all these, you know, farms. And here we have something that's going to be for free, with a follow-up of medical personnel that will help us out. I really don't see what crossroads we're at that this is not making sense.
I will add that a lot of the medical support is free. The build out is obviously like something that we need to do. I will say that David has been reaching out weekly to see how he can help provide food to his community. And I know we honestly couldn't accept a donation because we were really in this place of like, I'm ready to put this on the agenda. But he's shown his commitment as a Jersey City resident to want to support us in many other ways, because he's seeing this as one of these places where he can also see how other municipalities can do this. Am I speaking out of turn, David, or like more or less the space that you're?
Yeah, that's fair. It started with seeing the impact we had in Newark with at-risk communities, especially with kids, getting the eating habits ingrained in kids early, so then they have the right impacts. So we saw them go from, instead of the fries, to the vegetables. And then with Michelle Obama championing, getting excited behind it, and then the World Economic Forum. So I think there's going to be a lot of publicity around this, and there's a lot of leadership the Jersey City can show in doing this. And it's coincidentally, luckily, the world leader in this field, the CEO and founder, lives in Jersey City, and we're headquartered just down the road in Newark. So we're here to support, like Stacy shared, I've offered a number of times. We donate a lot to our local community in Newark. Happy to do so. I've tried doing so in the past, and very willing to provide resources. My guess is we're gonna, like, if where help's needed, we're gonna be here. Not my guess, we will.
And to be clear, I wasn't bashing, the other farms. I'm just saying that, there's certain, certain people like us that can't afford it. And here we are, we have this resource for them. And I mean, I'm passionate about it. I mean, I love it, and I love the fact, that the person behind the project is a Jersey City man. It's, it's I love it,
Okay, thank you. We have until 8 o'clock for this meeting to wrap up, because we want to, remember, we Zooming. There's a time.
I think you're being sold a bill of goods, and we got school problems, and we have budget issues here in the city right now. It's not the time for $1 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Council President, I have questions.
Well, Mondo, we only got to 8 o'clock. We only have to 8 o'clock. Stacy, could you reach out to the councilman and answer his questions? Because I'm just getting, they're telling us we only have until 8. And we have still the agenda to go through. This was like maybe 30 minutes, they tell me, 35, but this is what we do. Okay, Sean, next one.
Can I just make a request then?
Go ahead, sure, make the request.
So if I can get that information offline, and if I can get in contact with David and Fabian as well offline, so that I can ask some more probing questions about particularly your results in Newark as well. Okay.
Okay.
Council President, I apologize. I know you're trying to move it. Can I just put something quickly on the record, and then I'll follow up with questions?
Go ahead.
So I think the two issues I just want to put on the record is, one is I'm concerned about the design of the program that ties getting the free vegetables to a required year-long process. I understand why that the thought is of an intervention to help people's health, but I think it can be paternalistic. And so I have a series of follow-up questions that I'm going to ask via email about design, and connected to that is who's actually doing the evaluation. So if we're creating a program that's designed to see its impact, who's the third-party evaluator, who's independent from all of us, who's collecting the data, who is assuring that it's all going to be accurate, and so that we know it's making an impact. So I just want to put those on the record. I'll follow up with a written questions, and then we'll discuss it on Wednesday.
Okay. All right, then. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. Next item is 10.23, Resolution 20-386 is a resolution ratifying an agreement with Let's Think Wireless LLC for the support and proprietary microwave hardware and software for the Department of Public Safety without public bidding.
Go ahead.
Okay. Item 10.24, Resolution 20-387, resolution authorizing the renewal of an agreement with Intrado to provide website hosting and support services for the Department of Administration, Division of Information Technology. Okay. Item 10.25 is a resolution 20-388, a resolution to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell for Albert monitoring services for city networks maintained by the Department of Public Safety and Department of Administration, Division of Information Technology. Okay. Item 10.26, Resolution 20-389, a resolution authorizing the settlement of the lawsuit St. Patrick and Assumption / All Saints Church versus the City of Jersey City. Okay. Item 10.27, Resolution 20-390, resolution authorizing the award of competitively bid contract to All American Recycling Corp. of Clifton, Jersey, for the disposition of mixed paper products. This is what Sonia was referring to. Any questions for Sonia? Okay. Thank you,
Council
Sonia.
President,
Oh, yeah.
I was just reminded, not related to that item, but just two questions if I can get on the record for an item that I forgot to mention. Going back to the ordinance, I think it was 3.3 with regard to the tax abatement. If we could get the name of the party that is receiving the property, that's buying the property. And I know it's 280 Fairmont LLC or something, but who's the real developer or entity behind that? Whereas the seller is KABR, KABR. Wanting to know who that is over there. If I could just get that on the record, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Brian, can you provide that for us?
I will find that information, yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. No questions for Sonia. Thank you, Sonia. Item 10.
Go ahead, Sean.
Item 10.28, Resolution 20-391, resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Hudson Motors Partnership with Hudson Toyota for the delivery and purchase of 8 2020 Nissan S-Leaf vehicles under state contract for the Department of Public Works, Division of Automotive. Item 10.29. I'm sorry?
Go ahead, he said.
Okay. Okay. Item 10.29, Resolution 20-392, resolution authorizing an award of a contract to CDW Government LLC for the license renewal of Carbon Black Cybersecurity and CB Protection license renewal for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Communications Technology through the Educational Service Commission of New Jersey. Next. Item 10.30, Resolution 20-393, the resolution authorizing an award of a contract to Sanitation Equipment Corporation for the purchase and delivery of 5 leach cold battery electric commercial grade reloaders through the Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for the Department of Public Works, Division of Sanitation.
Council members, I'll be brief on this because I know we have time constraints, but this is the purchase of the garbage trucks that we discussed when we were awarded the $2 million grant from the NJDEP for full battery electric garbage trucks.
Go ahead, Sean.
Alrighty. Item 10.31, Resolution 20-394, resolution ratifying, authorizing an award of a contract to Coben Technologies for the renewal of the BWC solution license under the Houston-Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police. Item 10.32, Resolution 20-395 is a resolution ratifying the award of a contract to Software House International for the support and spatial logical software license on the state contract for the Department of Administration, Division of Information Technology. Item 10.33, Resolution 20-396 is a resolution ratifying the emergency contract award to Johnson Business Products for the purchase and delivery of GoSafe scanners and accessories due to coronavirus for the Department of Public Safety, Office of Emergency Management, and Homeland Security.
This is the purchase of the body temperature scanners that are going to go at every entrance to every single municipal facility to ensure COVID safety. One of the ways we're ensuring COVID safety.
Item 10.34, Resolution 20-397, a resolution ratifying emergency contract award to Imperial Bag and Paper Company for the purchase and delivery of 3 supply non-medical face mask and respirator face masks to coronavirus for the Department of Public Safety, Office of Emergency Management, and Homeland Security.
I just want to highlight that this is a local Jersey City vendor, and they've actually come through big for us in wake of all of the supply chain issues for face masks and other critical PPE. It turns out that Imperial Dade had a lot of extra materials and storage in their facility on the west side.
Item 10.35, Resolution 20-398, a resolution ratifying an emergency contract award to Everything Entertainment, Jabs Productions, Inc. for the rental of tents for coronavirus testing for the Department of Public Works Division of Automotive. Item 10.30.
Can I ask just a quick question? Brian, did you send us the reimbursement on the to the Hudson County for the CARES?
Brian, he's probably on mute.
You're
Unmute
muted,
yourself.
Brian.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I apologize. I did not send it. We ended up submitting late Thursday because of an issue with the submission link, but I will send that to the council in my follow-up to everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty. Okay, item 10.36, Resolution 20-399 is a resolution authorizing the renewal of a contract with Liberty Humane Society for animal control services for the city of Jersey City.
Is there any questions on this one? Have anybody been receiving emails concerning Liberty Humane Society?
Has this contract changed at all?
No.
The costs are the same?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
We can provide some additional information about the services they provide afterwards, knowing we have a time restraint.
Yeah, could
Irene
you-
is on the line and has a good presentation, but I don't know how you want to move forward here.
tell her to reach out to each council person because I'm getting a lot of calls on this. I don't know about any other council person, but we're receiving a lot of calls concerning.
Can we hold off on this until we?
Yeah, let's hold off on this till we meet her. Okay, that'd probably be the best.
I think that's good because I get a lot of calls about
Yeah.
the different services and residents seem to be confused about what they're providing and what they're not. So
We could just withdraw this, Brian, until we
Okay,
set up some meeting. Okay.
sure.
You want to put it off to the next meeting then?
Yes.
Okay. Just mark that withdrawn. Okay, item 10.37, Resolution 20-400 is a resolution ratifying the emergency contract award to Sandpro LLC to provide medical waste removal and disposal services for Jersey City COVID-19 test sites due to the city's ongoing response to the coronavirus epidemic. Next is item 10.38, Resolution 20-401, the resolution of the City of Jersey City designated the properties identified as posted in the resolution. I'm not going to read every block and lot that's there. It's online. And it's on the tax map of the City of Jersey City as an area of need of redevelopment with the power of condemnation pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 48:12A-1, exec incorporate the same into boundaries of the scattered sites redevelopment area and directing the planning board to prepare an amendment to the scattered sites redevelopment plan.
Council President,
Go ahead.
directing to, is it Councilperson Ridley and Rivera, the JCRA commissioners, right? With regard to this, what's this called, the APRA and the scattered site being a part of this Abandoned Properties Rehabilitation Act, can we get an update from JCRA regarding what kind of progress they've made with the current APRA properties and where things stand at this point?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have Diana Jeffries send you some information on that.
Great.
Someone else?
I have a question. Can we get these addresses emailed to us? I mean,
We have.
The
Sure.
the attachment is attached to the resolution, Councilman, and I also emailed the entire council with the list of properties and their and the owners' addresses.
okay.
Okay.
Let me know if you didn't receive it, because I can always forward it to you directly.
It's included now in the resolution that's on the public agenda at the last page of the document.
Oh, I got it.
I attached it.
I didn't see it before. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm listed as the program, the sponsor, but I only uploaded it for the redevelopment agency, just to put that on the record. All right.
Okay.
Item 10.39, Resolution 20-402 is a resolution awarding competitively procured contract to Schneider Electric Buildings America to develop and implement an energy savings plan.
Can I ask in relation to this?
Sure.
We've had I forget what the name of the vendor was who's coming up with some energy savings. Is this part and parcel of all of that, or is this an extension of all of those prior efforts?
Kate, I believe, is on the line. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the next step. We've gone through several steps, which started with the local government energy audit back in 2016, which came up with recommendations, a number of recommendations, and then we hired Gable Associates to help us with the next steps, which involved evaluating which of the recommendations that came from the audit we wanted to pursue, which method we wanted to pursue, and then to help us with the request for proposals or request for bids, which they helped put together, and they helped with the evaluation of the proposals that we received through the competitive process. So this is that next step, which is getting an energy services company, also known as an ESCO, to come on and to do the the investment grade audit, which is required to then be part of the energy savings improvement program through the state and get the projects financed through the savings of the projects. And I have Andrew Conti from Gable Associates. If you have any questions about that process, he's the one who wrote the memo that I believe you all received. He could take you through any of the steps involved with the state contract, or sorry, the state process, the evaluation and how we came to decide on the ESCO that we did, and about the next steps after that.
Any questions?
Can you walk us through that, Mr. Gable, the next steps after this? And
Andrew?
Sure. I think this, what I vaguely
You've met
recall
with Andrew before.
Yeah. What I vaguely recall from the last times we've had these discussions is the question that emerged was, when are we going to realize savings? And we keep hiring consultants and other folks to advise us on savings.
Right.
So when does the city and the taxpayers of Jersey City actually realize savings through this process?
Good question. All right. So where you are in the process now of awarding the contract, or awarding to Schneider Electric, will enable them to do the investment grade audit, as Kate had described. The investment grade audit is the finer, more detailed, more building specific type of energy audit that's necessary in order for this company, Schneider, to come up with a collection of projects that will be able to then provide you with all the financing information on how the savings would work, what the cost of the project is, and all of that. This investment grade audit is at no initial out-of-pocket expense to the city. This is something Schneider will just begin with. And then the decision afterwards, after the audit is done, will be made by the council and the city itself as to how to proceed from there. So the next step, immediate step, is this more finer point of the audit, which is at no expense. And then the step after that is the development of the energy savings plan. That energy savings plan, as Kate described, needs to be reviewed by the state. once the state has given the approval for that and that project, that plan has been financed, then the projects get implemented and there is savings that is achieved. So while we have made good progress to date, I still think we have some ways to go before we're going to see actual savings come to you. That's not because we aren't trying to do this as fast as possible. It's because we're trying to include as much as we can, because the wider net we can throw, the more projects we can include in this bundle that we're trying now, the better opportunity we have to use the savings from one to pay for the more cost of the higher expenses. So the lighting we can do in one building will pay for the boilers and air conditionings in other buildings. So our intention here is to try and bundle as much together as possible. We're looking at anywhere between a $5 to $11 million project in total, and that's going to get refined through this investment grade audit process. So really, there's a lot of moving parts. I understand some impatience on getting these savings, but these savings will be in place. The projects will have a positive cash flow, which means there'll be excess savings once they are implemented, and it should be for a 15 to 20-year life, depending on the projects that are included. So while it's going to take us probably another year before we get to the beginning of construction, or the city gets to the beginning of construction, I do think that you're going to get 15 full years at least of savings out the other end of this investment. So there's a lot to discuss as far as financing goes. There's lots to discuss as far as what projects actually get included here. This is not by any means the final step or the final opportunity for the city to give input. This is just the next step in the process.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean?
Yep. Okay, next item is item 10.40. Resolution 20-403 is a resolution authorizing an award of a contract to CDW Government LLC for the purchase of Barracuda Update Protection and Service for the Department of Public Safety Division of Communications Technology through the Educational Service Commission of New Jersey. Okay, and the last item we have is a late item that was added. I don't know if it's up on the web yet, but it's going to be item 10.41, resolution 20-404, a resolution declaring May 25th to be Black Lives Matter Day.
Thank you, guys. I just want to say to the law department, thank you for working over the weekend. I know I got it into you guys a little late, the business administrator, and I really put this together because I wanted to let the world know that we here in Jersey City will remember this forever. This will go down forever with us. George, I want to say, condolences to the family of George Floyd, but we want to make sure that this is not just another thing that happens, the Emmett Till or Rodney King or any other situations that happen, and we almost just, it happens and then a month later it goes away. So every year in Jersey City, with the support of the council, I hope that you all will support that every year on the 25th, it will be our official, I guess, kickoff to the summer, that we remember George Floyd, and the whole world can stand with us in remembrance and letting everyone know that Jersey City recognized Black lives. So thank you, guys. I mean, if you can support it, fine. If but I'm just asking for everyone to support, and not just my council colleagues, but all of the workers that work for Jersey City and all the residents that call Jersey City home, that we'll be able to support this and we'll remember this each and every year, that Black lives really matter to us here in Jersey City. Thank you.
Very great. It's a great resolution, Councilman. Very good.
Thank you. Okay, Sean, I know before we close out, I know Councilwoman Ridley, she wanted to say something and do something, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going to turn it over to Councilwoman.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we were going to turn it over to Councilwoman Ridley.
Thank you. So we're going to adjourn, but I wanted just to take some time. I know that there's been a lot going on in the world. We've had some very productive and peaceful protests here in Jersey City related to the murder of George Floyd and the current climate, and numerous events that have happened through the years related to Black lives. And so I just wanted to provide an opportunity for anybody watching at home and for council members or anyone who may not be comfortable going out in the pandemic to protest, or, may not be comfortable or know what to do to, show your solidarity. So I'm going to ask that we adjourn, and then after the official adjournment, anyone who would like to stay on, we will do a moment of silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, which is the amount of time that Mr. Floyd was on the ground under the knee of the officer, and then the live stream will fade out. So we won't have any words after. We will just close the meeting.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
No, I have something else I just want to bring up, Danny. Lately, the last 3 or 4 months, we have a vast graffiti problem here in the city, and it's costing us, the taxpayers, a lot of money. Sean Sully has been doing a fantastic job in getting this graffiti off of different places. Today, they hit the church up on Magnolia and Summit, the Greek church, and Sully did a great job. But it's costing us a lot of money. I think we have to go back to the way it was a few years ago, and the graffiti artists have to be arrested, and this has to stop because they're defacing an awful lot of property, costing the taxpayers quite a bit of money.
Okay.
And before we go, Richie, I'm going to pick you up in a few minutes before the meeting once we adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Thank you.
So the
Motion
intention
to
is to
adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn. Is that
Motion.
correct, Councilperson Ridley?
Yes, Councilman Rivera made the motion. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn at 7:31 p.m. by Councilperson Rivera and seconded by Councilperson Ridley. All in favor of the motion to adjourn at 7:31 p.m., please say aye by acclamation, council members.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are officially adjourned at 7:31 p.m. What we're going to do right now is have a 8-minute and 46-second moment of silence. So I'm going to mute everyone, including myself. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going to end the meeting. Stay safe.